Welcome to Zwift Knockouts, an exciting new test series for Zwift featuring short, sharp, exciting head-to-head racing between the best esports racers on Zwift. I'm your host, Dave Toll, and with me today we have our lead commentator, the legend himself, Nathan Guerra. Nathan, Zwift Knockouts is something we haven't seen before at this level of racing on Zwift. Tell me your thoughts after last week wrapped up.
Yeah, this new type of racing out on Zwift has been really exciting to watch. We've been waiting for this moment, I feel like, for a long time because elimination racing makes everything jeopardy. And I think it's given the viewers, it's giving the racers, it's giving us a lot to be excited about when it comes to each and every elimination that takes place out on course. We're watching the battles play out in front of us in every single moment throughout the entirety of an event. Last week with the points race, we saw the teams battling to accumulate as many points as they possibly could against a number of teams, not just a head-to-head battle. So they were going for sprints each and every time across each and every line, making sure that their tactics were right. But again, on that, it was kind of like figure out who the strongest is and get to that line first in order to grab as many points as possible. This week, though, with a head-to-head elimination, the last person on your team across the line being eliminated every single time they come across the banner after lap one, going to make things a little bit more intense, I'll say. I think the riders are going to be a little bit more worried. We're going to have a lot of tactics and strategy to try and make sure that your team is the last one standing. I think because of the way that elimination races like this work, we're going to see teams with the highest level strategy they possibly can brought to the line.
This format, it's head-to-head elimination. We've never seen it before. Very popular on the velodrome, but I've never seen it with team against team. So incredibly exciting. Let's take a look at how the tournament looks as we had last week's racing to reflect back on. Nathan, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what we witnessed.
Yeah, last week we saw some super exciting racing across 6 racing events. We had dominating performance from solo riders, and we had teams working together to secure their place in the next round. As you can see, the power-ups were reserved for perfect timing each and every time they came to these lines to try and grab as many points as they could to accumulate in order to get through to this round of racing. We eliminated 2 teams, 8 left standing across the men's and the women's teams.
All right, we move from the group stages into the quarterfinals. We could see the teams that advanced coming out of Group B was rough, no doubt about it. They were at a numerical disadvantage right from the get-go. But the 8 teams that survived, well, what became very important to them, Nathan, was how they were going to be paired up for this first ever knockout round. And this was going to be a big, big deal. I'm going to just jump right in as 2 legendary squads here. Sarah Snowpins will be taking on Toyota Cryo RDT. History will be made out there, and I can't wait to see that one, Nathan. Quarterfinal number 2 has an interesting pairing.
Yeah, Beast Mode versus Team Electric Spirit Co. Team Electric Spirit Co. coming out of the community. Katie Loker yesterday took down almost every sprint in the community league. So Beast Mode, though, they've got some power, some strong engines in there. We'll see if they can bring some tactics to take down the big sprinter.
My heart goes out to riders in quarterfinal number 3. This one's going to be absolutely brutal. Both of these teams have incredible depth. So each elimination is going to be excruciating out there. And then quarterfinal number 4, Nathan, your thoughts on this battle royale?
Yeah, Sox Watts and Roca Cobra both coming out of the community up to this level. A little bit more up in the air for them to prove themselves. What a great arena to walk into and ask if we are not entertained.
Thank you, Nathan. All right, I'm certain that we will be. Well, you have to understand the format that you're racing in, and who better than Hannah Walker to get us all up to speed on the ins and outs of the elimination race. Take it away, Hannah.
This week we feature a brand new race format, Elimination. We're in Crit City, Downtown Dolphin. The first lap as normal, but when we move into lap 2, the action is going to kick off, because the next time through the climb arch, the last rider will be eliminated. This will continue with successive eliminations at each arch until on the final lap, the last 3 riders will race for the win and see their team progress into the semi-finals.
Well, thank you, Hannah. We're going to go straight down into the action. Crit City might as well be called Downtown Pain City today. Nathan, they're going to be getting after it very quickly, and there they are, the contenders, Ceres No Pins, up against Toyota Cryo RDT. A battle for the ages, Nathan. I cannot wait to see how they're tactically going to approach this one. Let's get it on.
It's going to be really interesting to see. There are 2 power-ups being eliminated. Remember, everybody, 2 power-ups being eliminated. And for this first one, it is going to be the arrow and the burrito that are not in. So as you can see, Feather, Draft, Ghost, Anvil, Steamroller all in for this battle. And as we get out on course here, Liz Van Houweling sitting third wheel, Toyota Cryo RDT there, making their way directly to the front, it looks like, with Mitchell immediately up into some pretty good watts per kilogram, and it looks like they've got a little bit of a plan to keep the pace fairly high right from the get-go. I believe that's going to be Munden on the front, setting the tempo here while Saris are sitting in a little bit. There it is at the bottom. You can see the current watts per kilogram and who is where in the placing. This is going to give you a great idea. After this first lap, they're going to feel each other out a little bit here, Dave, and then it's all going to be on when they go through the next banners on lap 2.
And we will keep you up to date immediately as riders are eliminated. Again, it's going to be getting down to that final 3 as we whittle away at this. Let's introduce to you the heavy hitters, the gladiators that we've got on course. I'm going to start with the team in white and pink. This is New Zealand's Anna Russell. 4th place at the World Championships was Liz Van Houweling out of America. Morgan Useni, Sarah Morrison, and Tara Cole joining the team. She was not with them in our group stages last week. That is a big addition, a very dangerous rider here. Nathan, I'll throw it back to you as Toyota Cryo is up for the fight here today. We're going to be eliminating riders very quickly, but let's take a look at that full Toyota Cryo team.
Yeah, and as you can see here, Joe Munden, Amelia Mitchell, it's going to be Charlotte Kolkhoff and Linda Klein, Natalie Stevenson for Toyota Cryo RDT. Now, on this course here with these 2 teams, there are only 9 riders showing today. So for the first lap, we are going to not have an elimination on the first banner, just as a heads up to everybody, as we do have a 5v4 situation. Liz Van Houweling, Anna Russell, as you can see out there, Morgan Useni, and as you said, Tara Freder, what an addition. I actually saw Tara racing out at the Tour of America's Dairyland last year when she had so much panache and was always grinding to be at the front of the race. And absolutely, the heart on that woman is absolutely amazing. What an addition this week. We'll see how it ends up paying off when it comes down to these eliminations, Dave.
Sarah Morrison was the scratch there, so she did not make the start line. So effectively, that was your first elimination out there. So we're going to get right after it now, very much like on the velodrome here. There's going to be that charge as they rampage from the back of the group, because Nathan, once you establish your position on the front, you're relatively safe, but this group gets smaller and smaller now. So, okay, here we go.
Yeah, and they're going to take a little bit of a round here, starting into the first lap for the eliminations. As they finish up their first lap, we've got 9 women out on course. 1 is going to be gone from the race next time they come through this banner right here. Will there be any attacks is going to be the question here, Dave. Out on this course, there is 2 sections, in my opinion, that you can really make any kind of moves if you want to break things apart. And we are seeing here that a 10th, really? Is this going to be right here?
Okay, apologies. Sarah Morrison is now back in the mix. So she will be eliminated, however.
Gotcha.
Nathan. So, yes, that explains
Yeah,
what's
it looks
going
like a
on
late
there.
show here, perhaps there. And now she will be eliminated. She will be the first one to be eliminated across the banner when they come over the cobbles on the little KOM, Queen of the Mountains section on this course. Remember this section of course right here, everybody. There's a 1% uphill gradient right here. It's a false flat, and then there's a 3% descent every lap. I'd be watching out for this. A lot of times, at least in my head as a racer, I would be coming into this section looking to gain a ton of speed and put a little bit of pressure on some of the other teams, because that short kick over the KOM or Queen of the Mountain there might not be quite enough. You put some pressure on, though, it might split things apart before the sprint across the line. So as they come across here, Dave, we're not going to have an elimination amongst this group, but it will be Sarah Morrison that will be eliminated as the 10th rider across this first banner.
Everybody keeping their powder dry in this group right now. It looks like they want to have a straight up sprint, a throwdown. As you saw them taking that hard left just a moment ago, they actually saw the arch that they're going to be sprinting at. This is the classic Zwift criteria, of course, no doubt about it, Nathan. As we get ready now, it looks like a little bit of an effort being made on the front here by Toyota Cryo. That's the team in blue. And it looks like we are eliminating now officially Sarah Morrison. A little bit of bad luck there for Saris, but they'll be able to rebound from this, Nathan. Not an ideal start, a little stumble out of the gate, but they've got some very, very strong riders. It's great to see. So Tara Cole, I was calling her, that's her maiden name, now married. She and her husband Jonathan met on the pro racing circuit, and cycling has been a huge part of their life. She's a mom as well, and it's certainly a great addition here. But nobody wants to roll the dice out here yet, Nathan, and I'm not surprised, as they realize you want to keep those legs underneath you for what's going to be some hectic sprinting in the finale here.
Now, Stephen digs his way to the front here. The first elimination about to come at us in about 500 meters right now. Mitchell now taking over, it looks like. Klein sitting on the wheel. I am seeing orange numbers coming left and right just a little bit quickly here, but it's going to be Russell now making her way to the front. Now, Freder, though, here's a big kick before they even come around the corner from Freder, actually. Getting into the lead. Coco now taking over. Charlotte at the front. It looks like she's easily going to stay in, but it's going to be Mitchell at the back. Not going to be able to hang on. The first rider. Now it's going to be a 4v4. Heads up, because Amelia Mitchell taken out of the race. And here we go to right into the next one, Dave, because we've got another banner coming up quick.
Evens the score out here, Nathan, but in all honesty, let's talk about the end game, the exit strategy for these teams to advance into the semifinals. It's having the win out of that last group of three. So we're going to whittle this down. Again, every sprint takes one rider out of this group until we're down to three. Now, it's possible that one team could have all three riders and then it's done and dusted. But the most likely scenario is that we'll have a 2 versus 1 scenario for that last opportunity. The rider who wins out of that group of three will advance their team. I tell you what, this format is absolutely fantastic. Esports racing at its very best. I'm seeing the Scottish rider, Natalie Stevenson. She's going to put a lot of pressure here on Saris. And I think right now, Nathan, one thing is for sure, that the experience that Liz Van Houweling has on this team, along with Anna Russell, that's going to be hard to overcome out here. These two riders have a very high tactical IQ. But then again, you can go either way with that one, can't you? Because here's Klein. Nathan, I'm going to throw it back to you, because here we go.
Munden now was taken over at the front, but that might have been the bad place to be. Charlotte Kolkoff seems to be at the front over and over again just to make sure that she is not out of position. Now, Toyota struggling again. Look at Saris. I think Saris here are just so set up with the tactics, because it's going to be, again, Toyota Cryo RDT being taken out, and that is going to be, I believe, Joe Munden, perhaps out of the race at this point. We have to wait and see for that official elimination to come on through, and it is Joe Munden eliminated, and it's a 4v3 at this point. Next one coming up here really quickly, Dave. Now it's about 500 meters, maybe a little bit more for the next lap banner.
What I really love about the way Saris is riding is they're doing just enough to keep themselves out of trouble, but not so much to catch the wind. As they say in Belgium, the tall tree catches the wind. Well, if you keep going out too hard and winning the sprints, again, what you're doing here is burning matches that you don't need to burn. I think that right now, Cryo's taking a different tactic, Nathan, as they're trying to get out in front of this one. But boy, I tell you, it's been a tactically astute ride from Saris No Pins, and I think they've done it again. Back to you, Nathan, for another elimination.
Yep, Charlotte just controlling the front, but I'm not sure it's exactly what they need to do, because it looks like the Saris keep on timing things almost perfectly, but maybe not this time. Is that going to be Anna Russell taken out? The whiteboard doesn't show up on the day, and Anna Russell is taken out of the race.
Anna's
now
okay.
A 3v3.
There was a rider behind her. There was actually a rider behind Anna that was eliminated on Cryo, I believe, Nathan. Anna was. I'm sorry. There we go. My bad. Boy, it shows you how frantic this is. Okay, you're right. Eliminated Anna Russell. Wow, that's a bit of a surprise for me, Nathan.
Yeah, I mean, the tactics, they can only play off so much. It's going to be pure power at a certain point, though, when it does come to the line, as well as the timing. And she was maybe just a little bit out of position. What's really been impressive for me so far is where Charlotte Kolkloff has put herself each and every time. She has risked it completely, being at the front and just making sure she's got the power to make sure nobody can even come around her.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, good job by Cryo, right? The Empire strikes back there, Nathan, as they've evened things up. This is turning into a ding-dong battle out here.
Yeah, and here we go. Natalie Stevenson looking to lead things out a little bit. Now Nuseni at the front, and now they've really got to be careful about where their positioning is and make sure that they can come around any rider, because this next one is going to be absolutely crucial to come down to the 5 riders left out on course. And at that point, you can start throwing bodies off the front and play some games. Charlotte, again, just looking to take over. But again, here we go. It's going to be Sars no pins going through, and Freder out the back, it looks like. So now we've got a situation on our hands where it's going to be Stevenson, Klein, Useni, and Kolkloff up against each other. 2v2 now, Dave. Interesting how this is going to play out.
Well, I tell you what, if you only watched the first couple of minutes of this race, you would have thought that Sarah Snowpins was going to be dominating out here, but way to show the experience and the grinta, to use that Italian phrase here, from Cryo, one of the oldest, most respected teams in esports, and they are really proving that experience makes a huge difference out here. Liz Van Houweling, though, is who will be the final woman standing. That's going to be the way you advance your sprint coming up. I'm going to throw it to you, Nathan.
Liz Van Houweling, I think, has just been waiting and waiting to really see a real pounce from her. She's been protecting her position, I feel like, because now it's really coming on hot here from her. 12, 11 watts per kilogram here coming from Liz Van Houweling, taking this one out easily, I believe, and I think she's just been charging her batteries. It's going to be Stevenson out now, and Saris now. It's an interesting 2v2 situation, actually. At this point, Charlotte Kolkloff and Liz Van Houweling look to maybe be the two going head-to-head, but will we have a 2v1? Well, we will have a 2v1 situation in just a moment. Dave, could you have a prediction perhaps here at this point between these 4? Who is going to be the last one standing here for one of these teams?
Well, I have a prediction for you, and this format of racing is going to become insanely popular. This is bananas, Nathan. So I have to see Van Houweling advancing into this next group. She's a superstar out here, but I'm wondering, can this combo of Klein and Kolkloff, I'm thinking that they might be able to take it in a 2 versus 1 scenario. It's going to be 2 versus 1 no matter how we shake it. Now, certainly this format, though, this is exactly what we were looking for. Nathan, I'm going to throw it back to you. This is the most important sprint we've seen so far today, coming up right here, right now. Oh man, Crit City going ballistic.
Here we go. Kolkloff now looking to set herself up. But well, is she just going to end up being the lead-out train, though? Useni now sitting second wheel. It looks like Van Houweling now starting to make her way forward. And this is what we were talking about when it came to last week. Liz Van Houweling showed us her prowess. She showed us so far how cagey of a rider that she can be. Is she going to pull it off? Kolkloff, though, with an early jump. Early jump might be able to get her the distance that's needed here at this point. And really now it's a battle between Klein and Useni, actually, because it looks like Van Houweling's going to be able to hold on. Is Kolkloff going to be caught, though? Klein over the top, and it's going to be Van Houweling and Klein, actually. And now it looks like it's Kolkloff as she led things out. It is Charlotte Kolkloff that gets eliminated. Now Stars No Pins go into a 2v1.
And now the question is, do you wait for a sprint? If you are Sarah Snowpins, you have a decided tactical advantage. This is 2-on-1. And in bike racing, you got to be kicking yourself if you can't figure out how to crack the code and win out of a 2-on-1 scenario. So now you would think they must have a plan, or you never know. Are they playing this, are they winging it out here right now? Here is your scenario. It's still not over. Cryogen can advance. If Linda Klein can pull a rabbit out of the hat, you've got to love this underdog scenario for the Dutch rider Klein as she goes up against the 2 Saris riders. Back to you, Nathan. Who's going to get this one?
Looks like it's going to be Useni here making her way to the front now. Useni taking over. Here comes Liz Van Houweling. Van Houweling now with an arrow power up. The arrow power up at the last moment. That's going to be it. The arrow, I think, is going to take it down here, but it's still going to be a 1v1 because she comes on through, and now Klein holds on. But here comes, there's Van Houweling and Klein now. What Cyrus No Pins are the winners as Van Houweling had the awesome power up and just take it down.
Boom, boom. Out go the lights in Crit City. Liz Van Houweling, you're a living legend, no doubt about it. As you said at the top of the broadcast, are you not entertained? Nathan, Cyrus No Pins will advance, and that was a back and forth battle out there. Amazing. We have more to look forward to. That was only the first of 4 for our women. The men will follow here. Incredible, incredible racing. Your thoughts, Nathan, just on first blush?
Well, looking at how that was played out, it was really interesting. First of all, the reserves, I think that each of the teams were having for their strongest riders, who they knew to be their strongest riders, especially when it came to Liz Van Houweling from Cyrus No Pins. But they started a person short, but their tactic was still able to play out with the way that Liz made sure she was just in the right position, the right time. One thing I really want to highlight here is that this is gaming and cycling mixed together, because Liz had to control her avatar so precisely to be in the right places at the right time, getting the right drafts, reserving the energy, and then you saw it in those last couple of laps. Bam, next thing you know, you're seeing 12 watts per kilogram where you only saw 9 to 10, 8 if even needed. Van Houweling, she played that like a fiddle.
Yeah, the closing out of the deal in business and bike racing, it's always the hardest part. And I think what we saw there, and everybody should take note of, Liz Van Houweling made sure she did as little work as possible in the early part because she knew she was going to be relied upon in the finale, the last part of that race. Very smart racing. Got to give it up for Cryo, though. We're going to hear a lot more from that team as this format is clearly going to be a success. So, Nathan, I'm going to throw it back to you. I think we've got some more explaining to do out here.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, the format out here today, we're out on Crit City, Downtown Dolphin. It's going to be an elimination across the banners. Every banner that these riders go through, there's going to be an elimination of the final rider. But the first lap, no elimination. So they can kind of set up, get ready, figure out how things are going to play out there on this 1.9 kilometer, 1.2 mile course for each lap. There's only 26 feet, 8 meters of climbing each lap, but those really do matter because the attacks and the speeds are so incredibly high. Dave, you know, when you're watching any kind of crit racing or anything, you do see that these little false flats, these little bumps, you can get the speed so crazy high over the top of them that they can separate very quickly a small pack like this.
All right, well, we're ready to jump back in as they have reset down at the course. Phenomenal. We're 1 minute away from the race. So, Nathan, let's reset as we're ready to bring in our second group of teams. This one has a very fresh feel to it. Let's start with Beast Road, presented by Rose. This is Rose, almost entirely German squad. They really lit esports racing on fire when they showed up about a year ago. And another team with a tremendous vibe right now, that's Team Electric Spirit Co. Really hard to make a pick on this one for me. What are your thoughts?
Well, the interesting thing last week we saw out on Richmond, the reality of beast mode going beast mode. They just have so much power when it comes to a 5-minute burst or a threshold burst, get away on a climb. It's a course that really suits the strong riders when it comes to that genre of cycling. But Electric Spirit Co., when I've been watching them in the sprint races in the community, whoo, do they scare me. Yesterday, we had some crazy sprints from Katie Loker. Last week was Snover, totally blew things apart in sprint after sprint, even out on Richmond, and were able to secure their spot to go up against Beast Mode with some of those sprints last week. So this is going to be, Beast Mode, I would usually on paper, most Zwift racing, I'd be like, watch out. But I don't know. This is a different genre of racing. I'm a little bit scared of what Electric Spirit Co. are bringing to the table.
Yeah, if this were a standard format bike race, absolutely Beast Mode I think would be my favorite. I'm going to go the other direction. I'm going to say Team Electric Spirit Co. is going to be very, very dangerous. Katie Loker is a phenomenal talent. She has really been breaking through. So let's head on down to the course. So this first elimination, you do get to take a breath as they roll out on course. That's going to be the white and orange of Electric Spirit Co. It almost looks like the home and away uniforms for a Premier League team, doesn't it? The black is going to be your beast mode presented by Rose. Two extremely dangerous sprinters in Loker and Snover on Electric Spirit Co. But Nathan, they've really emerged recently. I would say that these are two talents that are a supernova right now in our Zwift community racing. Really excited to see. I have a feeling that we might have a different kind of race here, to tell you the truth. Expecting beast mode to be a little more aggressive early. Let's mix it up. That's what I'm thinking. We'll see if it plays out that way.
Now, Alicia Haag and Pia Kumer are two riders I'd really be watching out for in the sprints to go head-to-head with the reality of what Electric Spirit Co. are bringing to this table. Now, we did see Gabriela Schumann a couple of weeks ago on the climb, obviously, on the Temple KOM in the Zwift Community League, absolutely walk away from everybody, but that is a very different kind of race, Dave, right? And so I'm wondering if any of those skills are going to be brought to the table here now. And here we go. Haag now making her way to the front. Interesting to see. And I think this is just maybe securing position at this point. Free lap right now. There will be no elimination here for a full lap from right now.
All right, so definitely just keeping the pace high is going to be the name of the game. It doesn't look like anybody wants to attack. Now, this is not, there's a difference between a free lap and a neutral lap, right, Nathan? They can attack if they want. It's just no one's going to be eliminated as they come through. So Rose Beast Mode is 100% free to get after it, and it looks like they're doing exactly that. The Brazilian rider, now living in Germany, is Gabriela Schumann, and she's doing what I was anticipating. She's going to hit out from the front, let the chips fall where they may. I like this tactic.
2-second advantage immediately here, and Bowler goes ahead and covers the move. Now it looks like Snover's trying to come across. With a smaller pack like this, you can get away with some moves like this. If there was a larger group behind chasing this down, then maybe not so much. But now at this point, Snover is having to put out a huge effort to try and close things down up into 5-6 watts per kilogram. Now Bowler takes over at the front as well, interesting enough. And now Gabriela has brought her across and gets to sit on the wheel perhaps. Now it's settled right on down. It is a 1-second gap, 20 meters now it looks like or so between these riders and the front of the race here. Here we go. Looks like Snover now settling right on down. They're going to let these two go. Perhaps. No, it gets shut down. It looks like it's a reset, Dave. Now it's only going to be about a K to the first elimination.
Yeah, there's so much depth out here, Nathan. I still like the mindset, and I have a feeling at some point we're going to see that work with riders attacking and just getting out of the fray if they have the ability to, and let things sort themselves out, let the chips fall where they may at the end of the race. But this is the big wind-up now. This is a huge moment for Electric Spirit Co. They're a distillery in Scotland, and right now we're seeing some of the top sprinters in esports coming out of Scotland, no doubt about it. As Nathan, this is what it's all about. This big one really sets a standard here, this first sprint that we have, and we are now locked and loaded. This is not a drill. One rider will be eliminated shortly.
And now it's going to be Blanco taking over at the front. It looks like 4.9 watts per kilogram. Kimberly Miller sitting in really easily, 1.8, resting up. It looks like now Electric Spirit Co. taking over at the front, but are they wasting a little bit too many matches before the real kick that actually matters? They're going to hit the cobbles here. Right-hand turn, left-hand turn, and then the elimination is in sight. Burrito now being used. We do see lots of power-ups very early. Nobody really holding on to anything at this point. Even some arrows that could be very crucial at the end. Lexi Snover, 11 watts per kilogram now, and it looks like here it is. Schumann at the back. Will she hang on? Barely, it looks like, as it's off the back for Blanco. Bowler now just barely slipping through, and it's going to be Lucia Blanco taking out the first elimination.
Our teams were given an opportunity yesterday to eliminate, veto one of the power-ups. Beast Mode presented by Rose, they decided to eliminate the Anvil, which is kind of a no-brainer, actually. But every team, Nathan, and we've got an attack here. Actually, I'm going to turn my attention back to the action. We can talk about power-ups later, but this is a human power-up that we're witnessing right now as another attack has gone up the road. Let me throw it to you, Nathan. A sprint coming up.
And it's going to be 5.8 watts per kilogram, 6 watts per kilogram from Schumann, but she's really got to go all in at this point. They're going to close that down so quickly with the gaps here, and this is a very big risk. She may just be swarmed in a moment here and be unable to hold on right to the line. Here comes the pack. It might be all said and done here. Will the final rider overtake and swarm? And it will be the swarm. Schumann eliminated from the race here now. And now it's going to be, at this point, between the Beast Mode presented by Rose, 1, 2, 3, 4 riders, and 4 riders from Electric Spirit Co. 4v4, 1 from each team, taken out.
This Machiavellian chess match, we're going to start. It's sort of like a chess game in that you start moving pieces off of the table, off of the board, and into the bin here now. As this is going to be interesting. It's not about at any point winning these sprints. It's just not being eliminated, and certainly trying to keep your best sprinter, your best hope, fresh for that last lap, that battle of 3 that we whittle our way down to. So Nathan, things looking relatively even out here right now. Have to tip my cap to Katie Locher, very, very dangerous rider who has absolutely kept her powder dry here. I don't know if her nose has even bet the wind. Let's go back to you, Nathan. We got another sprint coming up here.
Locher now, I've noticed, has just been where she needs to be every single time here. 3.7 watts per kilogram, nothing too serious, sitting third wheel. Very, very cagey here now, and this is what we saw even yesterday, not putting too much until she really needed to. And now here we go, off the back, I do see a rider really fading actually here at this point, and that is going to be Anastasia Bowler now. It looks like Laura Kent here coming on through for 7th. Anastasia off the back now at this point, not even contested. It looks like maybe just a little bit too much from the rest of this teams at this point. Now it does look like Beast Mode presented by Rose here now has an advantage, because I think the pace has just been so high that Kent just had to put in a monster effort to get back on terms, while the rest of Beast Mode to be able to kind of relax and set up for their next sprint. This is a 4v3 now, and I get the feeling that Beast Mode are starting to overtake a little bit, on top of the fitness, perhaps, that Electric Spirit Co. bring to the table.
If you don't drop one of these two, Snover or Locher, you're still in trouble, Nathan. You can't win the race in these laps. You can just increase your chances of winning. We've got a sprint that comes up super quickly here. It's just body blow after body blow. Back to you, Nathan. We got a big kick here. This one's important.
This one is as crucial as it gets, and whether or not it's going to be a 4v2 is going to be the entire question. And if it is a 4v2, they're in huge trouble, but it looks like perhaps the next one is going to be from Beast Mode presented by Rose. It is going to be Lisa Crom, and we've evened things up again. 3v3 as we head into the next arch, Dave.
It's interesting, Nathan. You could look at this from so many different angles here, but in my mind, what team has the best sprinter left out here? And that's going to be awfully hard to answer. Alicia Haag is very, very quick, no doubt about it. And she's certainly fired up. This is an awesome format for her. But Alexi Snover and right now Katie Locher. And Locher, yesterday we saw her racing in Zwift Community, and she is crushing these sprints. I believe she was making over 17 watts per kilo when she was fresh out there. And that's just unbelievable numbers. Back to you, Nathan. We're winding this one up very, very tightly. One rider eliminated every time we go under the finish gantries.
Going to be Locher sitting 5th wheel here, just waiting to pounce. Now it looks like Electric Spirit Co. finding themselves suddenly on the front, maybe not exactly where they want to be at this moment here. Now it's always so difficult to really find your spot. You almost get into a track stand if you're not careful here, as you see only 2.4 watts per kilogram at the front of the race. And now, though, you've got to come over the top with speed, and here we go. Pia Kummer, she's got the invisibility power up, and it's not going to matter if you see him or not, though, really, between the riders at this point. And now it's going to be Beast Mode presented by Rose falling backwards, but no, it's going to be Snover. Snover, it looks like, no, Laura Kent, excuse me, at the back, and now it's going to be Laura Kent eliminated 3v2, but the two that are left, Dave, Snover and Loker, those are two I would not want to get into any cage match with.
Yeah, I mean, that's like there's only two snakes left, but one's a boa constrictor and another's a cobra. So it's not like you're exactly comfortable at this point if you're beast mode. This is what this format, Nathan, was meant to be. I am so excited to see the way these races are playing out. So again, we're going to work our way down to 3 riders before the ultimate sprint happens out here. So if you're thinking that Electric Spirit Co. is in trouble, I would say they're not, to tell you the truth. They've got 2 very fast women. This is a very, very even battle at this point. Again, really, really hard to call a favorite here. If you were an odds maker, I'd say that both teams are in with an even shot. That's exactly what we were looking for. Nathan, I want to hand it back to you because another critical sprint. This format is awesome.
And now it's about to open up here around the corner. Nobody opened up early, which is really interesting to see. They're leaving it right to the line. This is a scary sprint at this point, but Kimberly Miller and Lisa Haag, Pia Kummer, they all kind of get the jump here. Kummer's got such a sprint. They've blocked him out. They've done an amazing job of blocking the road completely. And that is it right there. We've got a 3v1. The 3v1 at this point. Can Katie Loker pull off the impossible, Dave? Because right now she is up against the wall. Oh, my goodness. Will she do?
Stunner.
This is an amazing situation right now. Can she pull this off, Dave?
It is do or die. You only get one shot, Katie Loker. This is your classic underdog. So she now is going to have to cover every move. She's going to have to turn into a one-woman wrecking crew. Now, this would be the first time, and again, this is only our second knockout elimination in Zwift's history, but this is very unique. We knew this would happen at some point. Can a sprinter this strong weather the storm twice? This is like getting hit by a tornado, then a flood, then a hurricane. That's what she's going to have to survive if she wants to win. She can still advance her team, but she's going to have to ride with the strength of 10 Amazons.
Are they going to play games is going to be my question, though. They've got 3 riders, burn some matches. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. Loker now just able to sit in. Why not? I mean, why not just completely burn every match that she possibly has now at this point? We'll have to see, though, here. Here we go. Alicia Haag now taking over at the front, keeping the pace high now, and it is going to be blocking again. They're doing such a good job of putting the bodies in the right places here to force her to try and push around now. Here's an invisibility power up. We've got it coming here from Kimberly Miller, now making her way through with 11 watts per kilogram coming here. Katie Loker now coming with 10. Alicia Haag maybe too far at the back. It looks like she is going to survive. It's got a better power. Pia Kummer. Will Kummer going to come on through? Oh, there's still a right-hand turn here. It's still going to come right to the line. And will Kummer come through? No, that's it. That's it. Loker is out. Loker is out. Beast Mode have done it. Oh my gosh. The moves by Beast Mode there, the movement, the bodies, put it in the right place, and wearing down. I think it was an experience thing there too, Dave. They kind of just wore down the metal that was Loker at the end of the day and just eliminated the support around her. That was amazing. This is what this format's all about, Dave.
First time in history we didn't have to go into the final lap as Beast Mode presented by Rose sets a very high standard, tactically astute and brutally efficient out there. Electric Spirit Co. will survive to fight another day, but it won't be in this knockout series. That was effective, efficient, and devastating out there from Beast Mode presented by Rose. So round 2, Nathan, I have to say I'm a little surprised. I thought that the sprinters there on Electric Spirit Co. would be able to fight a little bit deeper into that race. But again, as they always say after the finish, that's bike racing.
Yeah, and I mean, it was really interesting the way that the resources were used there. You know, you do have the reality, obviously, of how strong Electric Spirit Co. is, but I think there was a lot of experience. Up front, it looked a little bit scary for Beast Mode presented by Rose with the loss of Schumann there, but then as the race kind of went on, I think the astuteness of Beast Mode really ended up showing up. Their experience ended up showing up about how to position themselves well. And then, again, I think they just kind of wore down the talent that was Snover and Loker that were needed to carry Electric Spirit Co. to the next round. So, well, we've got more coming at us here in just a moment, Dave. Go ahead, Dave.
They were very smart not to let Loker into that final because even 2 against 1, She was a very, very dangerous rider. So they were very smart to take care of business while they could. They didn't want to let that small fire turn into a forest fire. So well done on every front by Beast Mode, presented by Rose. So this has us now moving into what's going to be an epic battle. Aeonian and Swedish Zwifters, two teams that we know extremely well. You want to talk about squads that have bona fides with them. One team, Aeonian, came out of the community, Nathan, that you helped found. And to see a rider like Los Adagist racing now on this Aeonian team as world esports champion, UCI Zwift esports champion, that's a big, big deal. She's not taking the start today, but she's part of that Aeonian team. So she's going to be looking to her teammates, some very, very strong finishers here to try to get the job done. I'm really excited about race number 3 in our quarterfinals here.
Yeah, and it does look like here with Team Swedish Swifters eliminating the Aero power-up, Aeonian Race Team getting rid of the Draft power-up. So each team did have the ability to eliminate one power-up each. What's interesting across the board today, Dave, we've got this, the Draft power-up, it looks like people are kind of actually interested in that power-up because it has been coming through. It was made its way through almost everywhere except for this round right here amongst the women. So Aeonian, for some reason, I wonder what they're thinking there about not wanting that draft. Perhaps they have a huge amount of confidence in their ability to sprint, and they're thinking, we don't want nobody hanging onto our wheels. We've got the ability to kick, and so we're going to make it to the line first as long as they're not sitting on a wheel with some extra draft.
Yeah, it was interesting, Nathan, that Aero was selected in every single race, the men and the women, by one team or the other. We're talking about the fact that our squads were given an opportunity to veto one of the available power-ups. I saw our social media team had a fun, almost like what we're doing, a bracket format for what's the most popular power-up. And I think, is Aero your favorite? I guess it depends on the course and the situation and who you're racing against. And in this very, very unique format, Nathan, you have to take all of those things into account.
Yeah, I mean, Aero on this course specifically is very strong. It's absolutely it can completely change everything in most races, but the sections of course where the speed can pick up from having an Aero power-up are so exponential, especially the rollers coming down through the finish/lap banner. That section with an Aero power-up can see the difference of 5 to 10 kilometers per hour, depending on how much of a punch a rider has. It's absolutely insane. I'm not surprised one bit that was the power-up that everyone was like, wait, that's a little bit too much for us. We don't know what might happen if we allow that through.
Yeah, you're vetoing it not only for them, but for yourself as well. So it really becomes, do you play into your strengths or into their weaknesses? And I think it really is the latter, to tell you the truth. So oftentimes in bike racing, you have to find that chink in your opposition's armor to have a chance to win. The level is so high out here. Swedish Zwifters, Nathan, as we're about a minute and 15 seconds away from getting our riders out on course, this team has such a heritage. I would have to say one of the first real well-organized teams that we saw competing in esports came out of Sweden.
Yeah, Team Swedish Swifters, one of the longest standing teams, if not the long. I mean, very, very long standing team. One of the first kits in game when it comes to an esports team as well. Be on the watch out for this team going up against, though, one of the top teams here with Aeonian, and they've got a huge boost, obviously, with having the world champion on their team, the current reigning world champion. Not racing out here today, but I think that's really pushed up the level at which they're competing, at the level at which, the ladies are showing up for. Like, wow, we've got the world champion on our team. We're going to represent out here today. We have seen, when it comes to Daniela Estrate, she knows where to be when. Manali Keller, I'd be watching out for Manali Keller as the bullet out there today. I have a feeling they're really going to be looking to protect her and get her to the line at that final.
All right, well, thank you, Nathan. And here they are, your contenders in quarterfinal number 3. It's going to be Aeonian Race Team. That kit they earned along the way in our Zwift community racing, along with the legends themselves, Team Swedish Zwifters. This is going to be an epic Zwift knockouts battle here. So riders out on course, I'm sure you've gotten familiar with the format. Thank you to everybody for joining us here as the teams are now out on this first lap.
Whoa.
Again, not a neutral lap, but we're a little bit away from our first sprint out here. Both of these teams are real success stories in the Zwift community, Nathan.
I mean, what's happening on course right now, this is right from the get-go, 6 watts per kilogram. I mean, like, it was almost like there was an attack right from the gun. I mean, Team Swedish Zwifters now 6.5 watts. It looks like they're just jumping right out on course, and this is not track stand immediacy here. This is like put the heart rates right up into right into the throats at this point. And is this the instigators? I can't figure out which ones. It looks like now Embring here, Team Swedish Zwifters are the ones that are really pushing the pace here at 5.4.
Yeah, so I think I see what their tactics all about here. It's going to make this a very, very hard. It's an intense short race here, Nathan, but Swedish Zwifters do not want to wait around and let the sprints come to them. They're going to get after it here. So Lucia.
Yeah,
Blanco
I mean, this is really surprising
race.
here, Dave.
Yeah, ignore that. We're yeah.
Nelly Larson here now it looks like immediately, I think the whole point here from Team Swedish Zwifters is they know the strength that they're up against. They know the strengths of the other team at this point, and they are just like, we're not going to deal with the reality of Monali Keller at a line. We're going to deal with her now. We're going to deal with the reality of what we have coming at us in this monster powerhouse team by breaking them early.
Look at this. Nathan, this is incredible. We haven't seen anything quite like this. So Swedish Zwifters said, let's go ahead and throw all the coal we've got on the fire and just let the chips fall where they may. This has got to be a little bit of surprise here for Aeonian. What is your thought? Now, they might be catching some of their teammates out. This is completely upsetting the apple cart out here, Nathan. This is not a sprint. This is a survival march right now.
Marlene Jarheed now 6 watts per kilogram, leading out Larson. And it looks like Larson's supposed to be sitting in. I'm not positive. Yes, it is going to be Jarheed who's the sacrifice now at this point, I believe, to get Larson into a break situation here. And Aeonian now being caught is on screen, but there's still a gap at this point up to the Swedish Zwifters, who still have about 1 second. Vicky Whitelaw, though, TT specialist. You try to tag Vicky Whitelaw from Aeonian. She's going to be the one who can pull this all back together, and she did just that. It is almost together here at this point for all the riders, but now they're continuing on, Dave, and they haven't quite been caught. They are actually now extending the gap back out as they've calmed down. Keller now maybe getting a little bit worried, but they're within striking distance.
Well, nothing really to worry about as long as they can eliminate Swedish Zwifters. This is very, very interesting, to tell you the truth. So we are going to see riders starting to bridge up. I don't know that we'll see another one of these elimination races play out this way. The Swedes brought an entirely different tactic out here. So the two riders that have attacked have really just put the riders on Aeonian into team time trial mode right now, with Swedish Zwifters sitting on. It's a little hard to unravel this, but Nathan, we've got a sprint coming up, which really won't affect the first three. Let's look at that second group as they start galloping now.
Nelly Larson here, 5.3 watts per kilogram. They got 3 seconds over the top of this group that we're looking at right now with Keller. Daniela Strate did bridge across. Now, this might be trouble, actually, for the two riders that are ahead of this group, because they've been expending a lot of energy as this group now behind looks to rampage over the top of these cobbles here now. Larson fading, actually. Maybe she was looking to fade climb because she's only got 5 watts per kilogram. She's not even in sight at this point, but she might just get trounced over in just a second. Is Vicky Whitelaw, and now at the back, though, it's going to be Daniela Strate. Daniela Strate eliminated, I believe. Is that right? No, it's Monali Keller. It's Keller, excuse me. What? Monali Keller was eliminated? This is insane. She is one of the strongest sprinters they have on the team.
Bananas out here. Swedish Zwifters just executed brilliant next-level tactics. You see what they did, Nathan? They put 2 riders off the front, forcing Aeonian to chase while they kept their other riders sitting on. So as Aeonian was burning matches, chasing the two Swedes, they had their riders waiting to pounce, and they pickpocketed Monnalie Keller there. That's a huge talent. Monnalie is a world-class rider, no doubt about it. The Canadian living in Seattle, and she's already out, and that is huge for Swedish Swifters. That is, as I've said, Nathan, you can't win the race right here, but you certainly could find yourself in trouble. Sprint coming up. Back to you, Nathan.
Daniela Estrate over the top here, 8.4 watts per kilogram coming from her. Vicky Whitelaw, neck and neck here, just kind of looking at each other like, yep, we got this, no problem. Wow, the timing perfect there between them. And now Nelly Larson at the back, and now it looks like we're evened up at this point. It's going to be a 4v4 as Larson gets taken. Oh, is that going to be? It looks like, yeah, 4v4 situation. As at the bottom there, we do need Larson pulled over to the left there, but yep, this is the situation now at this point, as it is going to be Van Geit now taking over at 1.3 watts per kilogram. Now we're getting into a little bit more of a chilled out situation on courses. I think a lot of the matches early on have been burned, and they're going to start looking to reserve, as I think the reality of how quickly this course comes at you, Dave, is starting to be realized.
I'm sure a lot of people watch the Queen's Gambit, chess, and how you start makes such a big difference in how you finish. And for Swedish Swifters, getting rid of Monnalie Keller, Nathan, is huge. With the talent that big, she was going to be a massive threat, especially as you got deeper into this race. So I certainly tip my cap to them on a well-played move. So the numbers are even. But I would have to say that, almost using that chess analogy again, they made an early move and took out a bishop or a knight there. That wasn't a pawn that they took off the board. Sprint coming up, Nathan.
Jarheed taking over at the front. Zardstrom, 9-4 from her now, it looks like. Now up into 10. I've almost everybody across the board, 10 or so watts per kilogram. We see burritos. We've got draft power-ups, but it's going to be Van Eyck coming from the back here, easily coming over the top, and it's the risk that is actually going to be Estrate on the bubble. And I believe that was Daniela Estrate. Estrate is taken out from the race. Another heavy hitter for Aeonian. Team Swedish Swifters maybe coming with the upset for Team Aeonian. I thought perhaps they were the favorites, but it looks like Swedish Swifters had a different plan.
Yesterday, Daniela Estrate was racing 33 kilometers out in Richmond that had a tremendous amount of sprinting. I'm wondering, again, you've got to time these things right, and certainly coming into this one with heavy legs, you've got no chance to recover, Nathan. As a racer, you never really know what kind of legs you're going to show up with, and you don't always get to flush out all that lactic acid, that's for sure. So Aeonian right now, things not going their way, to be honest. Swedish Swifters, with this next sprint coming up, can put an exclamation point on the first half of this race. Nathan, can they do it again and show the Aeonian riders the back door? Here we go.
And now Swedish Swifters will see if they can make it happen, because, you know, they still have the reality of Vicky Whitelaw to deal with. Ariel as well, Verhaeren is here, so holding on right to the line. That one was close, Dave. Hard to call on that one. And it's Vicky. Wow! Vicky Whitelaw had 13 watts per kilogram around the corner, I believe, and yet still eliminated. It goes to show you timing and position is so key. This draft dynamic we're working with out on the course here is so realistic when it comes to trying to find that position correctly and using it correctly, because Vicky had so much power, but was it put in the right places, I think is the question.
2v4 out here now. And obviously, if you're Aeonian, this is where you could certainly relate to what we saw in the previous race with Katie Loker being her last teammate standing. At least you've got one rider with shotgun with you here. This is the wild, wild west of racing, and we've got a real shootout going on right now. So the Swedes, a tremendous job out here. You want to talk about tactically astute, but here's the thing, Nathan. Ariel Verhaeren is an American Olympian. She made the 2012 team that went to London for the United States. She now lives in Utah, but she's a BMX racer. Snap is the name of the game there. Just being able to throw down massive wattage, and that woman is a wattage cottage. So she's still there. It's not over for Aeonian, but the ship is taken on water right now with 4 Swedes and 2 Aeonians.
It's a great point. There isn't much more power than the BMX. I mean, amongst all the highest wattages you see in the world, BMX is, I believe, the highest you ever see. Will she be able to keep on showing up for this, though, today up against the Swedish Zwifters? Because it was right to the line for her that time. Did she hold on? No! The BMX rider gets up, taken out, and we're seeing why it isn't just pure neuromuscular snap out here, and now we have a 4v1 situation. Dave Van Aert, can she hang on? Eva, oh, this is a tough one for her because now the Swedish Zwifters, they've got so many resources, they can just throw them off the front nonstop.
Yeah, this is a really, really tough situation for one Van Aert, the one rider left from Aeonian. My heart really goes out to her, as Sweden, a peaceful, loving nation. No question about it, Nathan. But I don't think you're going to catch that vibe off of these ladies here. I don't think this would be this moment that you'd wanted. They're going to try to put her in trouble. This might be a survival sprint out here. How many times can Van Aert go to the pain well before she comes back with an empty bucket? Well, I know one thing. The passion bucket is full in Sweden, and they might be doing it right here, right now, Nathan. Back to you.
Invisibility power up from Van Aert. They have no idea where she is. They had no idea where she was. And then Embry gets taken out. The invisibility ends up keeping her through. What a move by Eva Van Aert. I love it. She goes ghost on them all. They got Swedish Zwifters got ghosted, but it looks like the callbacks coming from Zahid now as Marlene just goes. Another invisibility power up to go across. This might be two up the road. If she pulls this off, if she goes across right now, with two up the road, and then Feinstrom don't even know where she's at. Dave, this is amazing racing.
So this is it. It's all in the balance right here, folks. This is why the elimination format is so unbelievable. If she can get up to that wheel and dropping the Swedes, all of a sudden the advantage might go to her, but she's got to be fighting, trying to get her head above water. The Swedes are trying to take this one out right now and advance into our semifinals. You have got to love the effort from Eva Van Aert here. She's been incredible, and Nathan, she has fought back. It is not over. Hope remains with Aeonian.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. And what does Marlene have left in the tank here? The double invisibility power-ups being used. Now another invisibility, but does Eva know? She has to have seen that disappearance had happened here. Where is the rider? It's 8 watts per kilogram up the road. That doesn't matter. She just needs to watch Jarheed though, but she can't let this go too far. It looks like she's going to get the jump on Marlene, and she's going to survive at this point, but she's got to follow Frenstrom. This might end up being a 1v1 bike race up the road at this point, but London comes across here. She'll survive one more time, perhaps, as Marlene. It's over. It's all over. It's going to be Team Swedish Zwifters, but Eva put on the battle of her life. What a fight of a lifetime, Dave.
You got to give it up for Eva, but Swedish Zwifters, one word, respect. They will advance. That was next level tactics from the Swedes. That team's been around since, I know Watopia just turned 7 years old this week, Nathan. And I think the Swedish Zwifters were some of the first out there racing. That was a clinic in how to ride an elimination race. And I see a lot of folks talking about how exciting that was. And certainly, Nathan, they went out with a different plan. That was fun to watch. They didn't let the race come to them. That's my takeaway here. They made the race. To the brave go the spoils.
Absolutely. We are seeing, Dave, that putting the pressure on is paying off. Right? I mean, it really is. The tactics that are playing out here, you know, they're sacrificing some pawns, making sure their queens are safe here. I mean, it's been some great chess matches so far that we've watched play out. And early on in the races, you've got some panic mode. It feels, at least I'm like, this team or that team might be in trouble. And then next thing you know, their overall strategy starts to play out, and bam, out the back go one of these teams, and you end up with a 4v1, a 3v1 situation. And it's not like they're not fairly evenly matched, Dave. You look at these watts per kilogram, you look at what they're able to put down, it's not a big difference between them. So you could say, somebody might be like, well, it's just a watt fest, these riders are just stronger. You do get a little bit of that, but we've seen some very strong riders strategically eliminated from this race. That's what this knockout format seems to really be about.
We're going to bring up the table. John Lennon used to talk about instant karma. Well, we're certainly getting instant tactic out here. Nathan. It's really exciting to see how quickly you have to make decisions. That term Machiavellian chess match is perfect. So this is it. Sox for Watts and Roca Corba. Let's quickly talk about both of these teams. They're near and dear to our heart. First, Ashley Moolman Pasio, the esports world champion, racing in the World Tour in her final season on the SD Works team in the World Tour. She's just a fantastic ambassador for what we do in the world of esports and racing. And that's her team. She had put that Roca Corba collective together. That's a climb right outside of Girona in Spain, where so many of the world's athletes who race in Europe, it's a very common hub, that's for sure. And she's done a tremendous job with that team. Sox for Watts, a little bit of a different story, but a heartwarming story of inclusiveness. And Nathan, I know with what you do in Zwift Community and Zwift Community Live, this is, I would say, a real success story. Both of these teams, but Sox for Watts, let's talk about them quickly, as we're about 3 minutes away from starting our fourth race and final race at our quarterfinals for the women. Nathan, Sox for Watts has been fun to watch, haven't they?
Yeah, well, Sox for Watts, they come out of the WTRL team time trial, essentially. They were a conglomerate of a lot of different teams that have been around the racing scene for a long time. Teams that come to my mind are going to be the KISS Racing team, the Draft team. We've got even some TFC. There's been riders on this Sox for Watts team that have come from almost all of the OG teams. And so essentially you have this kind of super team that came out of all the OG teams that started taking on the team time trial every Thursday. And they were like undefeated forever in the team time trial at the top end of the women's racing. And then they went through, when ZRL then launched, they went through a couple of different seasons. And then finally this past season, were able to qualify into Premier Division level. So they're coming out of the community, but if you're not aware of Sox for Watts, watch out. This team and who they bring to the table. Not racing today, but Rachel Elliott is a name. You know, one of the strongest women ever in esports when it comes to coming out of the community. So, you know, they also have some. It's kind of interesting. You just talked about in real life coming into a world champion, former world champion with Ashley Moon and Pasio, and you've got this community team that's got some of the strongest women we've ever seen in esports, kind of meeting head to head right now in a representation on this Crit City.
All right. Well, for folks just joining us, thanks for jumping in. We're about to head into our final women's race in our quarterfinals. Let's go back to Hannah Walker for a quick explanation of how the racing format plays out.
This week we feature a brand new race format, Elimination. We're in Crit City, Downton Dolphin. The first lap as normal, but when we move into lap 2, the action is going to kick off, because the next time through the climb arch, the last rider will be eliminated. This will continue with successive eliminations at each arch until on the final lap, the last 3 riders will race for the win and see their team progress into the semi-finals.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this one, Nathan, as we're going to have the riders out on course in just a moment. Tough to make a prediction here, to tell you the truth. This one could play out very similar to what we saw in race 3. I'm expecting this to not be waiting around for the sprints, much more attacking and stirring the pot. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, Dave, to be honest, what I've seen so far for the first 3 rounds, I'm kind of like, I have no idea what's going to happen, because we haven't seen this kind of racing yet, right? And the reality is there is a little bit of Watt Fest in some of the other racing. A little bit. It's not all Watt Fest. There's some tactics, but this is so much more tactics. I've never seen this much tactics in Zwift racing, so it's kind of thrown my ability to predict out the window a little bit with the newness that is to this format, Dave.
Well, they've called the gladiators to the course. Sox for Watts will be in blue, Roca Corba in, I guess I'd call it rose there, as both of these teams are locking horns now. So here we go, Nathan. And thanks again to Hannah Walker. Hannah is a legend. We really enjoy having her as a colleague, and she does such a tremendous job. So we're going to see who the first rider is eliminated out here, but it'll take us a moment to get there. I love the fact, Nathan, that these teams have such interesting bona fides. We talked about the WTRL team time trials on Thursdays. That's a great place, actually, to get your team together. And I have a feeling that, again, I'm putting the cart in front of the horse, but this format seems like something that we should be allowing all of our different racers in the community to have a chance to do. I expect people will really love this. Speaking of leaders in this community, Nathan, does it get any better than Alice Lethbridge on Socks for Watts? She does so much work, and especially with junior riders, helping to get young women into the sport.
Funny to see Monica Keller got eliminated twice in the race she wasn't even in. But,
but
you know, she has raced for Socks for Watts in the past, though. So maybe that was just a little bit of a, well, maybe she wished she was out here with Socks for Watts as well at this point. But yeah, Alice Lethbridge, one of the leaders amongst this team and a voice of the community for sure, for pushing the platform and really wanting to see the best for Zwift racing. We see so much passion coming from Alice Lethbridge. Jumping in now, we can see she has been off the bike, I know, for a little bit. We'll see what kind of strength she has today as she's jumping right on into the deep end here. It's going to be interesting to see as we play out one lap. Again, everybody, not until we see this banner again will there be an elimination. They've got one lap to go from this point right here for another elimination.
When I hear Alice Lethbridge talking down her chances, Nathan, I think that she's even more dangerous, to tell you the truth. The greatest trick the Dever ever pulled was convincing us he didn't exist, right? That's exactly what Alice is saying. It's all, there's head games, track racing, Nathan, and that's really what we're doing here. This is so similar to the velodrome and the incredible excitement and energy that you see at tracks around the world, and head games are a big, look how these teams are lining up right now. I mean, this is next level. The team in blue, that's Socks for Watts. The team in, I'll call it red, unless you have a better color for me to use, Nathan. I guess red is about as good as I'm going to do out here with my public school education.
It's like a mix. Well, it has some mixture to it. I mean, fuchsia, is there, I don't even know. I don't know colors that well, but you know, definitely a mixture of purple, pink, and red all together. And we're going to get somebody in chat is going to let us know. There'll be an art teacher in chat that's like, come on, you guys. Like, really, here's what this color is. But as we get here around here, not this banner, but the next banner here, Dave. And we haven't seen any power-ups used yet. So are they all happy with what they have? I wonder.
Should talk about that.
Because I would think, yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, let's go ahead. And we talked about how the teams were given an opportunity to take one power-up out of play. Socks for Watts chose to get rid of the anvil. Roca Corba went with the arrow. So, and again, every single race, the arrow was eliminated by one team or another. So that's where we stand right now. This is going to be a straight-up drag race, the way things look right now for that first elimination, Nathan.
Yeah, it does look like that. It is going to be Rian Denton now taking over at the front. Sydney Andrew up into 4.3 watts per kilogram, though. It looks like it is spread out across the road. No straight line, so nobody, as you can see, really driving any kind of pace. So I think, as you're saying, Dave, it's going to be all about the punch for this first one to see who the first elimination is. The tension rises now to be the first one eliminated, Dave. There's always kind of this, no, not me, and your butterflies in the stomach. And, that's where the real punches start to come from here. Now, here we go, though. It's going to be Kathy Colin now to the front, the South African taking over at 4.7, doing the lead-out train a little bit here for Roca Corba. Roca Corba, two up toward the front. They're going to take the right-hand turn. They do have the tight angle. Now, an invisibility power-up, they're not going to know where that rider is at this point. They have no idea. And if they're at the back, it's going to be a big question mark if you were eliminated. Lots of feather power-ups, so completely risking all of the resources at the back. Sydney Andrew, I believe, is going to be, yes, eliminated. It's going to be a bike race at that point, I believe. So, close one there, tough one is where she was at, I think, in the pack was just a struggle to come through, Dave.
And a tough power-up. The burrito isn't going to do anybody any good at that situation. Tough one, Sydney. We're going to hear more from her. She's an up-and-coming rider for sure. And just because that sprint didn't go her way, no reason to hang her head. I have a feeling Sydney Andrews is going to be a big star in esports racing. So let's turn our attention back. It's like Agatha Christie's book, 10 Little Indians, Nathan. And then 9 remain. And we'll be working our way down to 8 very, very quickly here as they make their way around. This is an infamous crit course, Downtown Dolphin forward out here in the world that we call Crit City on Zwift. So 1 gone. We'll get it down to 3. I'm sure you've enjoyed the format. I really love seeing people responding this way. And nothing makes you want to get out and race like watching a great race. Back to you, Nathan.
Denton over the top, it looks like, trying to hold on to that first place, but is she going to do so? It's going to be Roca Corba, I think, with the next one eliminated. Ooh, and it looks like it is going to be Catherine Colin from what my eyes saw there. We'll see if that is the correct call. I believe maybe, or is it going to be Denton who's going backwards now at this point? Oh, excuse me, the Osterby. My mistake. My mistake here, as it looks like
good,
the
Nathan.
Danish rider.
You've already got one in the bank with me from earlier, so it's a little tricky, and that's where this calling, you get so used to calling the front of the race here. Obviously, we're focusing on the back of these groups, and you have to make sure that you don't have a rider off the back as well, but that hasn't been an issue out here today. This is, again, it's an elimination race format, but Nathan, one thing that we don't see at velodromes is this team versus team, straight up. Mano a mano does not mean man against man. It means hand-to-hand combat, right? And that's really what we've got, wheel-to-wheel combat out here amongst these two teams. Name of the game is getting, the name of the game is really doing what Swedish Zwifters did and not leaving anything to chance, but that's much, much harder to crack the code than you might think, to end up not even going into that final lap if you can take all three riders on your team and have them be the last three standing. Nathan, I don't think that will happen too much, but we will see it. Obviously, we will. We just did.
Shire now taking over at the front, it looks like. Easily walking away with this one. Denton way out. Charlotte Berry, perhaps. Charlotte Berry, it looks like.
Pretty straight ahead on that one, I think. And we're kind of trading blows right now. You lose one, I lose one. So it doesn't, at this point now, no one team, Nathan, has showed any dominance, I would say, out here. This has been the most even battle we've seen of the four amongst the women. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, very, very even. It looks like, and as we can see here, we've got a situation where it is going to be 4v4 now at this point, as the riders make their way to the line. Lethbridge, it looks like, followed up now over the top. Osterby now taking over, it looks like. Lethbridge holding on, waiting for the moment to pounce here, it looks like, because this one's going to be absolutely crucial to hang on. Sox Watts still with so many riders, and there's the bounce. Lethbridge and Wu Yan taking over. Wu Yan, though, it looks like trying to hold to the line for that first, but who is the last rider is the question. Lethbridge maybe out. I think it was out, actually. I thought she was going to hold on here now. We're waiting to see as we have a few of these eliminations as
Denton is what they're saying, like. Nathan, over race radio. So, yeah, we're kind of getting right back up to speed here. It was Denton that was eliminated.
Okay, got it. Denton
on that last run.
Denton out the back.
Yeah, there's a lot. I really appreciate
getting updated here, getting everything updated here now, as it's going to be a 4v2 situation. Dave.
Yeah, Nathan. So obviously not ideal if you're Roca Corba. Is it the experience? Roca Corba is still a fresh team. They're not even a year old, I would say. I talked about Ashley Mulman-Pasio putting this together. I remember at the World Championships in Flanders was when she really started pushing the concept. And as we take a look now, Socks for Watts, most of these riders are some amongst, like Alice Lethbridge, level 50 Zwifter. She's been involved in esports long before I showed up, and her experience is immense. I have a feeling she's got this well-drilled Socks for Watts team, even though I don't know that they have experience on the velodrome. They have experience racing as a unit. It's starting to show right now. But again, it's still not over. You can be outnumbered, but if you've got the best sprinter out here, you're still in with a shot. And that's what looks like South African Tennille Otto is going to try to do. Take it to him right now. Good job, Tennille.
Yeah, Tennille is doing a great job, but looks like Socks for Watts, they knew exactly where to be and easily controlled that one, it looks like. So now Fee Osterby going to be eliminated, and we've got a situation with another 4v1. The domination of Socks for Watts, the experience coming out of the community, I think, is going to be the conversation here, Dave. But Otto, she led that out. Will she be countered? I think that's what's happening here with Haynes.
Yeah, so now for Tennille, this is where the David and Goliath thing, it's David versus 4 Goliaths, to tell you the truth here. As Socks for Watts is going to apply the pressure, she's got to now, at this point, she doesn't have to win the next sprints. She can't be last, to not be eliminated for 2 more sprints, Nathan, before she would be into the group of 3. So right now, doesn't need to panic. And even if a rider attacks, there's no reason for her necessarily. She's going to need to be very aware of the race going up the road. But Nathan, I'm throwing it to you because we got a sprint coming up very, very quickly here.
Yeah, and she's got the arrow power up. I'm not even sure she needed to use that because she is so dominant right now. Kind of a risky one to use there because I think, I would have wanted that confidence as well. But there is the reality at this point that would have been very useful to keep the team involved. Lethbridge now eliminated from the race here. Now we've got a 3v1, but now it becomes very difficult without that power up as well at 170. The heart rate is just going to be 170, 180 beats per minute at this point for Otto. Difficult moments.
What about this concept, Nathan, if you're Sox for Watts? Do you attack Tennille now with one rider and just send her up the road and then not even worry? Because we don't reset things for that final three here. And eventually, Tennille, you can only take so much here. I mean, my heart goes out to her for sure. These are brutal tactics, but this is how bike racing works. And they're definitely right now putting her under some real pressure.
She's not even on the wheel now at this point.
Get up there.
And
yeah,
this is it. And this might just be game over as they're just TTing away. And we talked about it. Team time trial, Dave. That's what Sox Watts are known for. And so now they use exactly that to end the race.
Yeah, they've
and
got
it looks
her.
like that is going to be it. I don't think they get, unless Tennille has an amazing kick right here. And she may have orange numbers. She's got a feather power up. This might come across, but no, at 5.1 versus the orange numbers, Haynes just needs to hold on at this point, and I think Haynes is going to do so, and it is going to be Tennille Otto out of the race, and Roca Corba eliminated. Sox Watts make it through for our final round for the ladies.
Well, this is the best tournament that I've ever been involved in my life, Nathan, as we go from 8 down to 4 because you can officially write Sox for Watts into our semi-finalists. Now, we are down to 4 women's teams here in Zwift Knockouts. What a phenomenal day of racing for the... I think we saw just about everything that you could have imagined, Nathan, every scenario. But congratulations, Sox for Watts. You will advance. So nice job, ladies. Okay, we've been able to establish our 4 women's teams. Now we'll have a chance to analyze that and look forward to our next round of racing. But we're going to change gears and move into the men here. Ultimately, we'll be still racing in the same place, same distance, same exact format with 5 rider teams taking the start. But again, what a great format this is, Nathan. I think this is a test series for Zwift. We invited the teams and encouraged their feedback, their participation. It was highly valued by everyone at Zwift. And this has really worked out well. I feel a morale, a new spirit coming out of this type of racing. And I think you're an advocate for this. I would imagine esports and bike racing are really starting to find a stride, I think, with this kind of racing.
When do I get to do it? I want to know at this point. Now
I'm
like,
coming.
whoa,
I knew it
this
was
is
coming.
so fun. Like, let's go. And so I'm really excited for this next racing's coming up at us. I actually just saw one of the best comments I've ever seen in chat because one of the lead developers, Wes Salmon, is one of the lead developers. He's saying Zwift Live is letting us know that color of Roca Corba is actually Wes salmon. It's not just salmon. It's an enhanced
they
Zwift
named it after Wes
color on the Roca Corba. Yeah. So the tables, it looks like it'll be coming up here for what we have against the for the men's here for their quarterfinals. This is what happened though for
this
the
is
women.
Showing us. Yeah. Thanks, Nathan. This is what we'll have in Neokyo next week, as you'll see. Boy, I don't know which is the ideal scenario here. There is no good scenario if you're any of these 4 teams. It's Sarah Snowpins who'll be going up against Beast Mode, presented by Rose out of their bracket. And then Swedish Swifters will be taking on Sox for Watts. And that'll move us into week 3 and then 4 for our final. I want to thank all of the teams again, Nathan. It's been so much fun. The participation has been off the charts. The energy is at a next level. We're 4 minutes and 30 seconds away from our first men's race. It's been interesting how the power-ups have made a big difference. Getting a burrito, Nathan, at the wrong time, that can be a game changer for some of our riders. The teams had that chance to eliminate a power-up, and that's one of the things that makes Zwift so much fun, especially in esports racing, the gamification. We've talked about that quite a bit, but these power-ups, you need a little bit of luck, just like in real bike racing. It's not all power. It's not entirely smarts. Luck plays a factor.
It plays a huge factor, and there's also realities of certain sections on course you have to tackle or take on, and you end up positioned in the wrong place, the right place. In my opinion, power ups are actually very realistic. So the next week, McCurry Islands, Neokyo Crit Course, 4 laps. Going to be interesting to see how that ends up playing out. It's going to be a points race again. There'll be alley sprint, castle sprint, as well as the finish line sprint. So that's going to be really interesting to see. But it's going to be very different with the points having only 2 teams up against each other. So I think that's going to make things a little bit more intense. Also, the reality of we're finding our champions. So now the head-to-head becomes more, you use this word quite a few times, parity between the teams ends up really starting to shine because they're the ones who made it through.
Well, and those 4 teams that we have on the women's side, and we're still to sort out our men's team, Nathan, I challenge anyone to pick a definitive winner. It's going to be wide open. So let's go back and take a look at the men's racing from last week and see how we got here. As we ended up, again, just like the women, you can see that coming out of the group stages was a huge challenge. It was the Group B for women, where you're at a numerical disadvantage. Well, it was incredible to watch how hard they fought in Group A to advance. So you can see the teams that made it. Now, of course, how you paired up in our quarterfinals, well, that's critical. Avis Lecole ends up against Hexagon. Nathan, I've got some questions for you about the French Hexagon team. That's for sure. This one is as big of a question mark as I could imagine. What do you think about quarterfinal 2 there?
Yeah, Movistar, coming into this, Team Italy last week played some amazing tactics and ended up in the quarterfinal 2, in my opinion. So they tactically ended up going through. On paper, Movistar, with the reality of Vidar Mail, I've been, we have been, and I've been commentating on Vidar's Mail's sprint for I think at least 5 years. This guy, earning his spot on that Movistar team, this guy, watch out for that quarterfinal 2, because I think Movistar are definitely the favorites. But let's see if Italy can, pull something off. Again, this format has really shown us that you can't really make too many predictions early on if the tactics are played out right.
I agree. I think this is the perfect example of how this sport is not about this. It's no exercise contest. This is not about who the strongest rider is. You've got to be strong. You've got to be smart. And actually, Nathan, I don't think I've ever seen tactics play more of a role in the ultimate outcome than what we've got in this format. This is bike racing elevated, and we are now 1 minute away from start. So go ahead and get your picks in here as the men are about to take the course. It's Dolphin time here. Crit City, Nathan. Doesn't get better than this.
Yeah, and that quarterfinal 3 with BL13 Next Esports and presented by Insured. BL13 keep on hyping up a little bit that they're going up against the strongest esports team in the world. We'll go, okay, we are getting right on into it, though, it looks like here with BZR Solid Sport versus Hexagon. This is going to be interesting, Dave.
Well, one of the great things in the sport of boxing is ringing that bell to call your champions into the ring, or your champion and your contender. Well, we haven't established a champion yet in Zwift knockouts. That's what we're in the process of doing, and I'm so happy that you're along with us to watch. This is quarterfinal number 1. Avis Lecole. You can see that Belgian kit and Hexagon presented by Ceres. This team has come out of the woodwork in the Zwift community. The all-French team, I believe all French, they have been nasty when it comes to the sprint. So we are now underway. Nathan, it looks like we've already got an attack from Hexagon. Are you surprised, my friend?
Not one bit. Hexagon are going to be super aggressive, I think, in this race. We'll see, though, what ends up happening. Now, all of a sudden, the orange numbers popping, though, all across the board here. It's going to be Sebastian Havet now off the front. Stefan Van Elst now making the chase there, it looks like, for BZR. And we might have a race from the get-go here to see who can even make a breakaway, an eliminated rider would just be one who just is unable to make this group. But nope, it's going to come all back together. Those are the initial kicks. Now it goes Grupo Compacto as Navarro makes his way to the front and calms it down at 3.5 watts per kilogram.
David Deschmecht had quite a weekend. Nathan, you were talking about that off air, that he picked up a podium at a Belgian race this last weekend. Certainly that's got to give him buoyed confidence coming into this one. The depth here in this group, though, there is no weak link amongst these riders, so wasting your energy trying to drop someone, I think we've already moved past that phase. Another attack, though, going clear. Actually, let me throw it to you, because it looks like BZ13. Wow, look at this. We're out on our no sprint this lap, but this is definitely action.
Abus Lacole. Yeah, and they are immediately, right from the get-go, Abus Lacole driving the pace. Now, I would be surprised if you see a second counter coming from them again, as Hexagon had to cover that. Now, it looks like Abus Lacole calming right on down, because it didn't work out exactly the way that they had thought.
That was
it
interesting.
seems. So now it's going to be all Grupo Compacto again. I think that Abus Lacole here might have a little bit of something where they're trying to maybe eliminate riders before they even get to the line.
Yeah, that looks like the game plan. Sorry about that. BZR was the former name. You can see it still on the jersey here, but this Abus Lacole is the team name now, and they're continuing to hit out here, Nathan. So it was interesting. I expected Hexagon to be doing what we're seeing Abus doing out here, but let me throw it back to you, because we're going to start eliminating riders pretty quickly here.
Quick little cover here coming from Almeida from the French team. It's what's awesome to see here also, as well as both of these teams are completely representing their home countries as well. So essentially it's French versus the Belgians out here today. Desmet comes on through first, it looks like, but it's all about who's last across the line. Havet trying to hang on, but Sebastian Havet, it looks like, unable to do so. We'll get confirmation. But it looks like
there's a
free lap here. Excuse me, my bad, of course, as we've got one more to go here as we hit the banner. You know, the riders, they pushed the pace so incredibly hard there, and the way that they were trying to drop each other, it felt like we were in for an elimination. They tricked the commentators.
I tell you what, it doesn't take much at times on this end. As we now take a look, here we go, and you can see the power-ups are being thrown up here as we're looking elimination. Now the rider at the back, who's going to be caught out. First sprint coming up, Nathan. Throttle, oh, look at this, single file now, throttle all the way open here. Wow.
And Navarro 2 seconds back at this point. This is going to be a struggle here, and really we're going to have a head-to-head between two riders. But even if you win out at that point, if there's a break up the road, eventually you're just going to get eliminated. So they've got to come across here, but we've seen it time and again. Leading out into this cobbled climb might not be paying off, because it's about the punch over the climb that really matters to hang on. And will it be a struggle for Desmet? Here was the initial kick came from Desmet, and that is it. It looks like he's going to be out, and that is the risk you take when you try to attack, because the group will come flying right on by, and you are eliminated. Desmet is out.
Live by the sword, die by the sword. That's the perfect example. That was the rider that we were talking about. That shows you, Nathan, how high the level is. That man was on a podium in Belgium at a UCI level race this weekend, and he has now been eliminated. They still have Matthias de Roos, a huge talent here. Certainly that final three, if we get down to the final three, which I'm anticipating we will with this group, I would expect Matthias de Roos to be in there. Hexagon, the darker blue jerseys, moving to the front right now. You can obviously see the yellow, black, and red of the Belgian band there across the Abus Lacole Esports team jersey. This is going to be quite a battle that we've got going on. And Nathan, another elimination coming.
And Pierre Almeida, I'd be really surprised if he doesn't find his way to the front. Look at the 15 watts per kilogram. The power from this group is absolutely insane. So difficult to find yourself in the right spot. And that was so close because of how evenly matched this is. But Julian Sutton finds himself overtaken by the rest of the group, and another out the back here. Hexagon lose one. Now it's going to be a 4v3 situation, if I'm not incorrect. I thought we were evened up here, but perhaps, as we have an update
well,
here
these
up at
two
the top in
teams,
just a second.
This is a real clash of the titans here, Nathan. These two teams have very similar racing mindsets, styles, and ability. I don't think that there's going to be any sleight of hand out here. Expect to see classic velodrome style sprinting, eliminating on each arch here. I don't think this one gets too fancy. This is just smash mouth bike racing going on here in our Zwift knockouts. Again, the light blue jersey, that's going to be Avis Lecole, mostly Belgian. Actually, I think entirely Belgian. And the same thing, Hexagon. In Zwift esports, it's not that common that you see teams that are all one nation. Swedish Zwifters would be an example of that. Well, I would say more often than not, it's a mix of nationalities. But Hexagon, another example of all French. But here we go, Nathan, another sprint. They come up so quickly here.
Yeah, it is going to be Lemner here now over the top with that feather power up, looking to try and break this apart a little bit. But Van Alst is at the back, even with 13 watts per kilogram, late on the attack with the power he had, waited just too long, and Stefan Van Alst ends up being eliminated. It goes to show he had 13 watts per kilogram still to give over the top. He was looking to reserve even maybe and didn't think he needed it, but it was little, too late. And it will be Stefan Van Alst now from Avis Lecole eliminated from the race.
There's a saying in American criterium racing, when in doubt, lead it out. And I would say that really applies here. Don't hesitate. I would burn an extra match now and see what I had to deal with later rather than try to be conservative. This is not a conservative man's bike race right now. You've got to get after it out here. So pretty even at this point. Another sprint coming up, Nathan. I'm going to let you have the pleasure of this call because this one's going to really matter now. The Avis can't afford to lose another rider here.
Van He now over the top, leading things out. Will he get swarmed? Matthias de Roos, is he in trouble? No, he's not. It looks like Hexagon most likely. No, actually, it is going to be Navarro, I believe. Yes, Corentin Navarro is the next rider to be eliminated. And now we've got a 3v3 situation, and it's going to be Havit, Almeida, Lemner, Simons, and de Roos all going to the line still. This is the best of the best when it comes. I mean, this is one of the strongest rounds that we're going to see. They are so evenly matched. We continually see 15 watts per kilogram needing to be put down just to be involved and still at the risk, Dave, of being eliminated.
This is a test series that we're so excited about here on Zwift, but in the Zwift Premier League, Matthias de Roos was without a doubt one of the absolute monsters. He was a winner and a perennial top 5. And Nathan, if he's in that final group of 3, that's going to be huge for the Avis team. He's a massive talent, and he's really the true triple threat. He can do it all. He can time trial, he can sprint, he can climb. So they're definitely going to, if you're Hexagon here, from their perspective, if you can try to pull a rabbit out of a hat and figure out how to get rid of him, that would be a difference maker. As the format here, again, we're sprinting every time under an arch to eliminate a rider until we get down to 3, and we've got another sprint coming up right here, right now.
A lot of drafting power-ups being thrown down. Perfect timing on those. As you see that about 30 seconds out. Now the battle really is going to be between Almeida and Simons. It looks like is there at the back of this pack here. Who will be eliminated between the two? And really, it's everything you've got to the line. Almeida's going to hold on, and it's going to be Avis Lecole with another rider eliminated. Oliver Simons out of the race. Now it's going to be 2v3. And it is Hexagon, the new community team, with the advantage. Will the Frenchmen be able to pull this off against the Belgians?
Yeah, Hexagon showed up in I would even say this last year, and were immediately a force to be reckoned with. And the fact that they're going up against an established team like Avis here and getting the better of them at this moment really speaks to what a brilliant future they've got. I mean, the right here and right now for Hexagon is amazing. 5 riders left, 3 in the dark blue jersey of Hexagon, and we've got another elimination. There's the arch. They'll make a hard 180-degree turn as they'll light the after rockets here. Nathan, a critical sprint. I was saying before it mattered for Avis. Well, this one, Matthias de Roos has got to get out in front of it. That's exactly what Matthias is doing here. Back to you, Nathan.
Perfectly timed there. It looks like de Roos coming right on through the Belgian, able to hold on to his positioning here, and it looks like it is going to be Hexagon losing another rider. Pierre Almeida just caught out of position completely, actually. I think the timing there, he was not prepared for how early you actually have to jump on that corner. That corner is a very tactical sprint. 2v2 now at this point. Matthias de Roos. Now, as you said here, Dave, I think that's going to be the magic bullet here for the Belgians to hang on.
Yeah, and right now, this is where you've really got to rock up if you're the Hexagon team. Because Avis is, I think that they're licking their lips right now. We're going to end up with that classic 2 versus 1 scenario at this point. You can see by the numbers that there's no mathematical way that we don't. So if Matthias de Roos is with a teammate, it's going to be really tough for Hexagon. If they're able to get a 2-on-1 situation, I start to like their tactical savvy, and they've got a great head on them, a great racing IQ when you talk about that Hexagon team. This is where the directors are working overtime, and it's almost coming to a standstill with the sprint coming up. Nathan, here we go. Launch code entered.
Lemner, 1.5. Yeah, here we go. It's going to be rockets flying now in just a second here. Is Van Heer 3.4 at the back, actually, though. Goes to show what a track stand that this is. Waiting for the moment. De Roos now making his way to the front here. Maybe trying to take over and position himself. Oh, 2 jumps from the Belgians. The Belgians get the jump, and it looks like it's going to be over. They used the feathers almost perfectly, but here comes Habit at 17 watts per kilogram, and Aero Power might be the upset, actually. I thought the jump from the Belgians was going to make it happen right to the line. And I think Hexagon with another eliminated. It was Tony Lemler. The jump from the Belgians made it happen. And Avis Lacole with a 2v1. And there de Roos goes. De Roos over the top here for the straight up win. Van He's not even in anymore. Havit's not responding. This is still for the win, Dave. This could still happen for Hexagon, but it's all on Havit's shoulders. Can he carry this team?
Matthias de Roos has been in the bank. He's got all of the money, and he's in a getaway car. That is going to be the Hexagon police trying to chase him down. Sebastian Hevo, and he's got an Aero Power up. Nathan, this is going to be close. It's not a done deal. The Hexagon team is burying themselves. The accelerators on the floorboard. Back to you, Nathan Guerra.
The speed was too much. Haven't had too much speed. He comes around the corner, and de Roos has nothing left. Hexagon, the community team, takes out one of the strongest teams that we've ever seen in esports, and it's called. He carried it right to the line, perfectly timed arrow, and we say it's not just watts per kilogram. Speed is still king on Zwift, and you see exactly why. We said that final corner, it was all about how you take speed into it, when you kick on it, the perfect arrow power, and wow, the Frenchmen do it. That was amazing from the community team coming in and taking out one of the most dominating teams we've ever seen in esports. This is so exciting, Dave.
Wow. We're not going to have much of a chance to catch our breath here. I'm going to call that an upset. I think just based on Hexagon's, their lifespan, nowhere near as long as I was talking about BZR. That was the name of Avis before. They've been around for a few years at a very high level. This was a big one for Hexagon. Congratulations to all of our friends from France. We're going to move there. It's about less than 4 minutes, as I said, until we will have Movistar and Team Italy. Movistar, a Spanish team, but this is a very international squad, Nathan. They had a tryouts a little over a year ago where people were able to compete in a unique, fun format to be a part of Movistar's esports team, men and women. And these are a lot of those riders that were successful there, going up against Team Italy, a team very much like Hexagon, I would say, a national element. It's all Italians, and they're also very, very strong.
Yeah, this could be really interesting. I really do. Going into this race, I would feel like I'm going up against a little bit of a juggernaut, some really old school talent, all qualifying and getting handpicked by the Movistar team. But Team Italy, we saw last week, putting a couple of riders in the break, ended up playing out the tactics so perfectly to just gobble up points and push their way through to this next round. So maybe we'll see some more of those tactics play out today. I just really do want to highlight what an amazing ride that was, though, that we just saw from Hexagon, as well as how that kind of played out, just a moment ago with the way that the Belgians jumped them in that final cobbled climb. I thought it was over at that point. The cover from Havit, the recovery from him then, and then de Roos going And Havet then getting so, I'm not sure if he was lucky. I'm not sure if he used a arrow power-up, Dave, at any point prior to that, or if there was a power-up used by Havet, or if he was reserving that power-up for just that moment. And I get the feeling that that's what that was. If I were in that Discord, though, with both of those teams, things were absolutely hyper. I mean, they must have all just been going bonkers in those final moments, too.
Yeah, so Hexagon, the first team to advance. We have 3 more races to look forward to in our elimination format as we get ready. Just 2 minutes away now from launching Movistar and Team Italy. I think on paper, Nathan, based on exactly as I would have been wrong in the previous race, I would have given Avis the slight advantage. If I was an odds maker, I might do the same thing here for Movistar, which means you should certainly go get your money in on Team Italy at this point, as these races have been incredibly hard to predict. There's something that Team Italy has, an Italian word that I've always loved in commentating, simpatico. These guys are all on the same page. They've raced extremely well together. And believe me, that counts for something, especially in a race like this. It's really, you have to operate as one organism, even though you're 5 riders on a team here in this elimination format. So I'm giving Team Italy a good shot at this one as well. Andiamo, boys.
Oh, I want to highlight David Fumagalli is in here as well. And, if you could see a rider who could show up and do something similar to what we just saw Havet do, I think that's definitely a rider to be watching out for, as well as Zanaska. Lucas Zanaska is another one that's really, 2 riders that I would really be highlighting on that team to be able to match, the reality of Jimmy Kershaw, Pin Van Diemen, Vidar Mail. I mean, these are 3 riders. Just watch out for those coming to the line. Yeah, I would not want to be going to the line with any of these riders and risking the knockout here. So much pressure going to be on Team Italy's shoulders to go up against them. But they do have some riders' names here that have been, shouted out quite a few times, actually, in the past couple of months here in the ZRLs. So watch out here for Team Italy. It's not said and done. We're jumping out on course here. And here we go. This is it, Dave. We got our lineup.
All right, we've called the Gladiators to the start line here, and these are the teams that we're going to be watching races. Cue the graphic as we take a look at Team Italy lining up. We're going to go straight into the race, actually. We don't need a graphic. That's Movistar. That's the graphic. That M for Movistar, and then Team Italy there with the white shoulders and the blue jersey, and obviously the tricolor there of Italy across their back. This is going to be easy to tell the teams apart. We don't sprint for a little over a K here, so a little bit of time to reconnoiter the course. Although anybody who's raced on Zwift, Nathan, this is a very familiar world. Crit City here, the Downtown Dolphin forward course. We've raced here quite a bit, but never in this format.
And it looks like right from the get-go, we do have Jimmy Kershaw taking over at the front. And I'll be watching out for that rider, one of the strongest that we're going to see, obviously, here. The Movistar kit with the big M on the back, can't miss that. Team Italy, obviously, with the Italian flag across the back, as you can see. Fabian Davola has actually shown up. He was a sub-in, I believe, on the day, so it looks like they did start with Davola. And Vidar Mail, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on Vidar Mail and Jimmy Kershaw to see how they play out the first sprint for the elimination. We do haven't see Regalito here looking to soften up the legs. This is not for an elimination, so this is all about stretching the legs out and kind of seeing where the other teams are at and whether or not they can get some distance. They are going to cover it with Kershaw here making his way to the front at a solid little bit of an orange number pop. Now this is nowhere near what we'll see in the sprints. So this, we see 15 watt per kilogram in the serious sprints. This is just keeping things within striking distance, it looks like.
Okay, you can't ignore something like that, but there's no reason to panic either. There's a new rider on Movistar, Goyo Llorado, I'm seeing, that new to this level of racing and esports, at least for me, and that's exciting to jump in at this level, and it looks like they're going to cover this one right now. That's Movistar. You mentioned the name Vidar Mel, the Norwegian, coming over from Kalish to join this team. This is just a group of all-stars when you look at what's going on with Movistar. Daniel Gould, Jimmy Kershaw, Pim Van Diemen, Seaman, who's been a winner in the Premier League, Vidar Mel, and then the new rider on the block, Goyo Jurado. The Italian team, Fumagalli, has been just absolutely outstanding. Davide Fumagalli, Marco Gaspari. And let me throw it back to you, Nathan, because I think that the sprint is about to... Actually, is this a sprint lap here? I always said a next lap. I apologize. So up on the KOM. So this activates the sprint right now.
Interesting to see that they're letting Virgolito go with Kershaw coming across. And my question here is, if these two just work together, I think Kershaw would be totally fine. Perhaps maybe they know the power profiles. Look at the Brito, and Virgolito might know this. Because if it ends up just being these two at the end of the race, then I think Jimmy Kershaw wins. So what they're trying, like if you let two go up the road and then they just end up at the end of the race and you know one of them's the stronger sprinter, you're not going to chase. You just allow and trust your best sprinter to do their job. And this is what Kershaw's doing at this point, it looks to me.
So in all of the major world sports, really the name of the game, Nathan, is try to isolate your best player against a player who's not as good as your best player. That's why in the NBA, the isolation, that's what you're doing. It's going to be interesting to see if any team can pull that up.
Sorry, Dave, I'm sorry, but we've got this crazy moment here happening right now with the invisibility power up here coming from D Gold from Movistar going across directly now. This is a huge moment because Movistar is looking to put two into a break situation for a 2v1 with eliminations happening behind. There might not even be a catch, and Movistar might just start sending riders up ahead, and Italy just end up knocked out.
A frenetic tactic, sprint underway.
Yeah, and now it's going to be Kershaw over the top with 4 seconds here at this point. Movistar, it looks like, able to eliminate David Fumagalli, which is a big upset in my opinion, as he's one of the stronger riders from Team Italy now at this point. So now, first one out, and quickly a sprint coming up again across that lap banner.
Movistar's taken out the sledgehammer. They're wailing away. That was a big one for them to get Fumagalli out. Similar to Anna Russell leaving the race earlier for Saris. That was one of these moments where, it's been happening out here. Let's see now with our next sprint coming up, the Italians are going to really want to strike back here.
Yeah, and Kershaw is a few seconds up the road here at this point. I think he's got a solid 6 seconds. So Virgolito is going to lead things out here from Team Italy and really start to ramp things up and maybe even sacrifice himself in the sprint as Movistar is just going to swarm this. Italy now, it looks like, going to be off the back immediately. And I think it's going to be said and done for Marco Gaspari, as now it is going to be a 5v3 situation as Team Italy again with one eliminated.
And actually, Vidar Mel is a teammate of Jimmy Kershaw. As you can see, it looks like they are going to reset things. It's hanging at just under 4 seconds right now from Kershaw. Again, this isn't at this point a race about the outright win, but when we get down to 3 riders, it is. This one is playing out really differently. Now, is Jimmy Kershaw burning matches that he shouldn't be right now off the front? Let's talk about this tactic, Nathan.
That's a really good point, because if Kershaw continues to do this, but every sprint continues to bring him closer and closer, it might end up being a huge amount of energy waste, Dave. That's a really good point where he gets caught and has nothing left.
Boy, I don't know, though. So, yeah, I agree with you, but it's going back out to 6 seconds. So I have a feeling at 5K to go, that's the plan, that they're going to let everything happen behind Jimmy, and he right now is racing for the win, which it cuts against the grain. It's certainly not logical. Sprint coming up, so Movistar again. Nathan, we'll call this sprint. I want to hear your thoughts on that. Very, very unique race.
Yeah, and it looks like Pim Van Diem now going to be leading things out here. It's going to be the first Movistar perhaps to get eliminated at the line. Dorado. Yes, Goyo Dorado is going to be eliminated, and Movistar now into a 4v3 situation. Kershaw still up the road by 2 seconds, but every time they come over the top of these kicks here, it gets shut right down. And Luca Zanasca, I think, is about to make contact with Kershaw, which completely resets this race, and Italy are still in this.
Yeah, it's very interesting scenario going on. This has not been the standard race out here. So Italy now on the front of this chase group, but the gap, it looks like we've caught Jimmy. There you go. Jimmy brought back into the fold. So that's going to be Luca Vergalito up on the front now. So the Italians have really recovered nicely here in the middle part of this knockouts race, Nathan.
He's
elimination coming up.
He went over the top. Vergalito actually went over the top, Dave. He just attacked immediately and just secured himself. There's no way that he's going to get caught, I believe, here with how much of a distance he got. And now it's actually going to be a Movistar rider because they waited just a little bit too long. And it's Jimmy Kershaw. He gets caught and then ends up getting eliminated after the catch because Vergalito goes over the top. Everybody swarms him, and bam! Now we've got a 3v3 situation on our hands. Wow, the Italians here playing things well on the back foot of a catch here. They've kind of recouped a little bit and reset their strategy.
That tactic, yeah, that tactic was had a high potential to backfire for them, and it looks like it did. 3.5K of racing until we can tell you what team is going to advance. Let's very quickly recap for you. This one's gone back and forth like a prize fight now, and the Italians have really had a good last couple eliminations. So right now, Movistar looked like they came in with a game plan that was going to be highly effective. But Nathan, let me throw it to you because we've got a critical sprint coming up, and it looks like Movistar's getting caught out here.
Pim Van Diem now gives a little bit of a go now and goes over the top, continues this strategy of trying to get away and break things prior to even hitting the sprints. But now Lucas Zanaska and Vergalito give it a little bit of a kick at the front, and at the back it's going to be Gould, who struggled just to be there. Can the Danish rider find himself to the front? And it looks like he's going to do so as Devola has a steamroller. The steamroller might be the answer for him as it's right to the line, and I think he just took out his teammate. It may have been Lucas Zanaska who faded at the end. Between those two, I believe, Devola and Zanaska, who is it going to be? Or was there maybe Gould? As we wait for the confirmation here in just a moment. Now a little bit of continuance here coming in. Actually, now everybody's calming right on down as they look to wait and see who is actually eliminated from the race. It was so close. Not exactly sure. We've got another sprint in a second. They're just going to have to go in for it here now at this point as Devola.
It's Luca Zanaska. Eliminated there, so we're going to pick things back up. Nathan, another sprint comes up very quickly. So that one took a few seconds to sort out. It was the Italians who lose Luca. They can't afford to lose another now. Here we go.
Yeah, and it's going to be Vergalito, Pim Van Diem well off the front, knowing how to take down that corner. And I think people are just fading at this point. There's nothing left in the legs. I saw 0 watts per kilogram well before Gould even hit the line. Vidar Mail now at this point making his moves, controlling this race. Former Norwegian national champion here out on course of Zwift. Van Diem now comes as well to the front. This is going to be the battles of the Titans up against Fabian Devola as well. And Vergalito obviously really showing what they've got up against some of the longest standing names in esports right now. 2v2, Dave, as we head into our final couple of sprints.
These are some giants of esports as well. The breakthrough Italian rider of the year, Luca Vergalito, Pim Van Diem, and Vidar Mel, and Fabian Devola in a sprint coming up, Nathan. This takes us down to the select group of 3 that go into the final. Let's launch these 4 into the sprint.
Yeah, and it's Van Diem here opening it up very early, getting the jump at orange numbers. He's got a burrito power, a perfectly timed burrito. That's how you lead. You always want to lead with the burrito to make sure you get the most out of it. No draft on him at this point. We're seeing Fabian Devola using a burrito, but that is not going to do anything for Devola. He's gone, and he says, go, Vergalito, go at this point. And now it's the 2v1 situation. It's Movistar's race to lose.
There goes Vidar. And Vidar now can put this one down on the, no, he's not going to. I thought maybe they were going to attack and not leave it to the sprint. So we are down to it. These three will determine who advances. A numerical advantage for Movistar here as the Italian Luca Vergalito. It's not over. We've talked about the fact that we've seen some stunning upsets coming out of this scenario. But this would be a big one here because Pim van Diemen and VRML are absolute monsters. Nathan, you're going to have the pleasure of telling us who is going to advance into the semifinals. This is it right here, right now. It's going to be Movistar against the Italians.
The lineup is happening here. Pim van Diem goes first as the lead out. Vergalito, Bernard Mail, though, it looks like with a late kick and visibility power up, but I see huge watts from Bernard Mail. It's going to be Vergalito versus Van Diem, actually, and Van Diem, is he able to hold on to the line? Yep, there it is, though. Bernard Mail makes it happen and takes it down as Vergalito is out the back, and that's going to be it. Movistar advance. Whew, what a move there from Mail, and he timed it. I thought maybe he didn't time it well enough. Was a little late, but the kick of 15 watts per kilogram was just way more than we saw from the Italian. And
Valiant.
Movistar goes ahead and shows us why they're a top esports team, Dave.
Yeah, they certainly executed, didn't they? As a matter of fact, that was a clinic out there for sure. None of the teams have had a chance to really sharpen their sword in this format. So I think we're learning a lot out here. But it's not a surprise, is it, to see Movistar with the amount of experience that they've got on that team. Again, it's a collection of all-stars with Movistar. So they will advance, punching their ticket into the final four teams. We've got 2 races left, Nathan, in this knockouts elimination format. Of all of the knockout style of racing that we're going to do, I have a feeling this one's going to walk away as my favorite. Elimination racing, a team-on-team elimination racing is fantastic.
Absolutely is. And interesting, this battle that we just saw play out in front of us here with Team Italy and Movistar, I really did think that the team on paper I thought was going to win did end up winning, but the reality of what Italy was able to hold on with all the way to the line and make it a 2-and-out at the end, 2v1 and one man to the line and still battling straight directly to the line and not just game over. Italy, amazing effort by them, and really showed that they are a top esports team to go up against Movistar with that kind of power and that kind of tactics to hold on to the end.
BL13 has a brand new jersey. It's going to be fun to watch them getting to show that off here in our next race as we're about 3 minutes away from getting quarterfinal number 3 underway. I think it's fair to say, Nathan, that next, presented by Insured, will go down at this point, and we're in the relative infancy of esports racing out here, but this is one of the greatest teams of all time. I think that they really made that statement. They weren't there. They actually worked. It's a classic story. They came through the community. They started like any other team, and they had to prove themselves in community racing on Zwift Community Live. They then got the promotion up into Premier League. They've never looked back. This team has an embarrassment of riches. But I tell you what, BL13, they won't shy away from this battle. And in no way will Next have an easy run here. As a matter of fact, this could be the best race we get to witness all day. Coming up next, BL13 versus Next, Insured.
Yeah, there's 2 other teams that come to my mind amongst the caliber and kind of the history making that you're talking about here with Next, presented by Insured. And I have to say Canyon Esports, the first elite of the elite teams out there, and Saris No Pins, I think, are 2 other teams, and they've put themselves right in that conversation when it comes to these very dominant top teams with esports personalities that have kind of come forward out of that as well as the athletes start to get highlighted and have these amazing moments. Next, presented by Insured, have done that. What's cool about that is that this is athletes that have 100% been a part of a lot of other teams in the same way that Canyon came together from a lot of other community teams, kind of drafting together the best of the best from them. Same with Cyrus. And now Next did the same just a couple of years later. So great to see them the way they've shown up at the scene. BL13, though, They're kind of similar. They came out of the community and they've done some of the most tactical moves we've ever seen. You know about the Legion crit race, Dave. I mean, to our viewers, I'm not sure, but they pulled off one of the best breakaway situations we've ever seen from a single esports team in a crit race.
Nathan, that's an excellent point. And for that very reason, I'm expecting this one to be crazy. BL13 is not afraid to cut against the grain. They're extremely brave and they are savvy as well. Next in Short has met their match. No doubt about it. Expect this one to be an absolute Donnybrook, and we're 45 seconds away. So they've entered the launch code. It's been approved. And once we get these riders out on course, I am really excited to bring these two monster squads. These are two teams, Nathan, I easily could have seen advancing if the pairings had been different. These easily could have been two teams in our final battle out here. Very high caliber of racing. We're excited for this one. Our penultimate race here at the Knockouts, brought to you by Zwift. And now's a great time to take a look at the two squads that are going to be thrown into the Shark Tank here. Next, presented by Insured, that famous jersey, and BL13 bringing the sunshine here to Crit City. So Nathan, here we go. Racing underway.
Jumping out on course now, as it's going to be Gamps from BL13 in that new kit. I'm liking the look of the kit, bright and shining like the sun, it looks like here, as it's going to be Dave Griffiths right into a 5 watt per kilogram taking over. Now, poor David Fumagalli gets him eliminated a second time, it looks like, from all of the racing, but now it's going to be, just as a joke, guys, that is not actually for this race here. As now Thomas Berry takes over at the front as well from BL13. It's the yellow versus green out here, and there's the attacks. I was fully expecting this from BL13, and I was definitely expecting them to not be halfway attacks. These are all in, as Michael Gamps, he's been doing this week in and week out lately. Been racing against him in the Electric Spirit Co. on Saturdays as a pre-race to the ZRLs, and this is this guy's signature right now as Gamps goes.
Yeah, the Danish rider Gamps, I mean, it's signature move from this team. Andy Nichols, Thomas Berry, Daniel Mundell, Dave Griffiths, and the aforementioned Michael Gamps. This team races aggressively, and this one is going to be an absolute throwdown out here. We're still a ways from our first sprint, and look at the action. It is hotting up. It's in fuego right now in Crit City, Nathan. Back to you. BL13 is going to make this one into a very messy affair for Next Insured.
Yeah, this is interesting, and now it does get covered by James Barnes. It's a great rider to be covering some moves here. No, excuse me, it was Barry. My mistake. Richard Barry made the cover. I was going to think perhaps the James Barnes that was going to be used to cover that and send a rider up the road. But, you know, Dave, what we saw last race with Kershaw, you know, going up the road and then being eliminated in one of our last races, I really think that maybe opened up the eyes that you might not want to send your strongest matches up the road and put them out there to kind of be used up. You know, if you're going to use somebody up, maybe send somebody that could go, they could get a gap and find if he ends up being a win. But, you know, Barnes, there's somebody that you really want at the end of this race.
That Kershaw move might have been planned as well, because he certainly took the starch out of the Italians, didn't he? That's you need that starch in the water with your pasta, and they were lacking it for that final sprint there. So certainly it all worked out for Movistar. We're going to go back in now, as this will help activate Zach Nair, another big name. You're talking about James Barnes. BL13, it's like the Borg on Star Trek, a collective out here, and they've hit out again. This is going to be a Michael Gamps doing what Michael Gamps does. So, Nathan, we're heading into our first elimination here, and you can feel it's starting to ratchet up.
Gamps now, a little bit of a move here. It is going to be covered again. It looks like this is going to be the roles of these two riders, is that Barry's going to cover and kill. Gamps going to continue to maybe go and go and go. It does look like that's Richard Barry. There is also Thomas Barry with an E, just so you know. Let's keep those in mind. As Gamps now goes again, Barry looks to cover as he looks to continue to try and grab some sort of a gap. Now, BL13 taking over the front here at 5 watts per kilogram. Are they trying to shut the door is going to be my question a little bit. The reality of the sprint power, though, I think, of John Brune and Zach Neer, James Barnes, I think this is really what they are concerned about. But they're going to let Andy Nichols, I think, sit in and reserve, because I think he's the one magic bullet that BL13 have amongst this crew.
Sprint coming up here. And
Gamps
let's
now,
take
10
a
watts
look.
per kilogram on the front. Griffiths, it looks like 12 watts per kilogram. Barnes now 14 here, easily going across. And at the back of this, the one who's in trouble is Brune. Brune, though, with the kick here shows that, well, if I get a little trouble, I'll just make sure Mundell gets eliminated, as it is going to be Daniel Mundell, it looks like, out the back.
Yeah, that's when you've got that kind of wattage at your disposal. Jay Brune, one of those riders, he won the qualification race for the United States to get into the World Championships, and that really started a great run for him. So things going to settle down just a little bit here, Nathan, as we make our way around the quick course. The eliminations come fast and furious now. And next and short, I have a feeling, again, this team has not missed a step in their entire run here. They show up prepared, and you know that they had a strong game plan. Back to you, Nathan, for our sprint.
And here we go. It is going to be Barry and Gamps leading things out at the back, though. Nichols, who I said perhaps is a magic bullet here, but he might find himself in trouble. No, it's going to be Richard Barry who's struggling, and next end up losing a rider. 4v4 now at this point. The Irishman taken out.
So BL13 flexing on that one, and I think that really is going to tell the story of what today is going to be like for these racers. It's going to be a very even battle here. Next, which, I mean, they've gotten pretty used to, their win percentage has got to be the highest that we've seen in esports over the last year and a half or so. This one is not going to come easily. It'll be certainly highly coveted here, trying to advance into that group of four that make our semifinals. This is the third of four races that we've got. Another attack here, Nathan, from BL13, as another sprint comes up very, very quickly.
Gamps now on the front, it looks like, again, being covered here, but it's going to actually be James Barnes who covers this and gets out in front of it. Is that going to put Barnes at a risk, though, perhaps with the kind of speed? You have to anticipate what kind of speed this group's going to come with. You cannot chill out even off the front, because the jump from behind might be way too intense to counter. Gamps now recognizing that, pushing to 10 watts per kilogram. Barnes here also up into 8 watts per kilogram, it looks like, as Brune from the back here looks to eliminate Griffiths. Can Brune go over the top? He does not have a feather. This puts John Brune in a tough spot here. Is Brune going to get eliminated? No, it's going to actually be... Is that going to be Griffiths or Gamps? Gamps. It was Gamps, actually, because of that 8 watts per kilogram and the cover he looked to make. Dave, wow, it shows why being off the front is so risky.
It's happened multiple times out here today. You write a check and then your body just can't cash it. It shows you the level that we're at. Nathan, I don't think I've ever seen this lemon lime Tron bike scenario before. Every rider is either on a yellow or a green Tron out here. That certainly levels the playing field as far as bike choice goes.
Yeah, it's going to Fashion Police in full effect here. All yellow Trons, watch out.
I'll have a Sprite.
They are out on course. And now, yeah, green versus yellow, though. I'm loving that both teams have showed up with the Trons, with the color coordination. Griffiths, though, jumping as he lights up those yellow wheels here. And is it going to be Barry to be able to hold on to the line? It don't matter who's first. It matters who's last. And Brune now fading. Was not expecting this. But John Brune goes to show some it's just going to be a one-hit wonder out the back. That's going to be the song for Brune today.
All right, well, Jay Brune will live to fight another day if his team can advance them into the semis. So it's Talladega Nights where they talk about if you ain't first, you're last. Well, that's not true here. You just don't want to be last. That's all that matters at this point. And we've got another old school Fury moment here as next and short. They've lit a rocket right now, Nathan, and this is going to be really, really interesting. That's Daniel Turek, the Czech rider who is exceptional. The Czech rider will write a check that he can cash. Well, we say goodbye to Jay Brune, but at the front of the bike race, we've got ourselves a jailbreak with 3.4K to go. Remembering now, Nathan, that if Daniel Turek wants to continue on with this, he could win the bike race with this move, and you can see that Andy Nichols is trying to cover and kill the very dangerous moment here from Daniel Turek. We got ourselves quite a moment right now, Nathan.
Turek needs to break Nichols too. When it comes down to the line, I believe that Nichols will take Turek. Daniel Turek is extremely strong rider. We saw him do this last week, and he can just press huge watts per kilograms here now. But now we do see it is going to be double invisibility here coming from Thomas Barry, David Griffiths here. And Barry, it's just not going to be enough here, as we do see Zach Neer as well as James Barr really getting the better of BL13, and Barry's going to be the next to be eliminated. Turek still off the front with Andy Nichols now at this point, but Thomas Barry out the back, and Nichols, though, goes on the attack. It looks like it's 6.7. Turek covering with 8.8, and now we've got the two riders here covering Griffiths, but I think up the road, they could attack Griffiths here and make sure he's the next one to be eliminated, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, that would be relatively straightforward, but the bottom line is Griffiths is not going to let go of this group. I have a feeling, Nathan, he's like a pit bull holding on to a T-bone steak. You're not going to get it out of his mouth. We've got another sprint. Now, there's a lot going on up the road. Andy Nichols and Daniel Turek are together. Let's see what happens with these guys. This is going to be huge for Andy Nichols if his teammate can survive this sprint. Let me throw it to you, Nathan. We got a sprint coming up.
9 seconds is the difference between the two, and it looks like it is going to be Barnes on the initial attack here to try and get rid of Griffiths. We'll see if they can make that happen. That's going to be a big answer to a lot of the questions still, and I think Griffiths is just out at this point, so Nichols is actually going up the road because Turek and Nichols are now battling for the win, essentially. Will Nair and Barnes work together to close this down? I think that's really going to be the answer. Turek should just maybe sit in at this point and
100%.
Make Nichols work and hold off and wait for the teammates to come through.
I would agree with that assessment. And boy, Nathan, you really get a feel, don't you, how you make these calls on the fly. You can see them, those two green concept bikes back behind. Turek has every reason in the world to sit on here. Now, this really puts Andy Nichols in a tough place. But Nathan, you've talked about Andy has a very strong sprint. So even though he's outnumbered, he shouldn't be disheartened here. He's still in with a chance to win for his team and advance BL13 into the semifinals. He's just got a tougher row to hoe right now. Andy Nichols has the advantage. His teammates look like they're going to make contact here, Nathan. So let's reset at the front. 3 insured. 1 BL13 in yellow is Andy Nichols. Can he weather this storm? This is a huge ask, and he's being attacked by a ghost.
Yeah, and it looks like it is going to be Barnes coming straight over the top. Yep. Yeah, speed is king, but Turek unable to hang on. He'll be the next eliminated. Nichols responds quickly. The question more here is going to be whether or not Nichols can jump back on the wheel. He does do so, and we're into the final sprint. First across the line wins the race, Dave.
Yeah, exactly, and advances your team into our semifinals. This is it, folks. I have to say I'm a fan of the underdog, and I just love to see Andy Nichols keeping his heart in the fight here. This one's not over. Next is going to be, it looks like next is pulling one rider out to James Barnes, or Turek, excuse me. So Nair, Barnes, and Nichols. James Barnes, one of the strongest riders in Premier League history, racing out of New Zealand. He's a South African-based rider now, or that's his home. And Barnes has a great teammate with him, Zach Nair. You don't find too much more of a potent combo than these two. Can Andy Nichols upset the apple cart? Nathan Guerra, this is what racing is all about.
Drafting power up used now by Nichols, but it looks like they got the jump on him very early. But Nichols has 18 watts per kilogram from Andy Nichols. Is the timing right? Andy Nichols is going to do it. Wow. He pulls it off. It's 1v2. And he does it. The chase from Barnes and Neer wore them out. And BL13 come with the upset out of the community against the top esports team in the world. Wow, Andy Nichols is on cloud nine right now. What a move.
BL13, shocking the esports world. Andy Nichols, you are my hero. Heart goes out to Next and Shore, but don't worry about those guys. They've won more bike races than you could shake a stick at. And everybody has to realize in this sport, it is brutal. And Andy Nichols serves up A beautiful, beautiful effort. Nathan, he was outnumbered by three monsters, 3-1, and he ends up winning the sprint. That's what you call trusting in your abilities and having a never say die attitude. That was a great Zwift moment. Are you
BL13,
okay?
I've had questions, I had questions, I had questions, and they've all been answered. I mean, wow. I
That was
mean,
huge.
talk about acing the test, right? I mean, like showing up against the #1 esports team, Andy Nichols, and he's off the front. He's with Turek. Turek is sitting in. He's making sure that Barnes and Neer have to do just enough that they tire out their legs, and then they tire out their legs. They come through with that final attack over the top, but I think the expectation was maybe to either eliminate him or drop him completely. He covers it over the cobbles, sits in, waits, and he's got a drafting perfectly timed with 17 watts per kilogram, round the corner, almost 70 kilometers per hour. Andy Nichols just showed us what BL13 is about, coming out of the community, and they are showing us that they love this format as well, because tactics are king. Man, are they king.
And it's certainly interesting, isn't it, when you look at Next and Short. They've been one of the top teams racing in standard scratch race formats, and they've really done it all. It's unique out here. There's horses for courses, and having one world-class sprinter can be enough if you can keep him in the mix out here. This is so much fun, and each week is different. We'll be heading to Nyokio, but before we do that, we've got one more race to contest. This will be quarterfinal number 4 for us out here. And Nathan, you've been talking about some of the greatest teams in esport history. We actually just had 2 of them racing, another 2 coming up here. Canyon Esports, they've been tremendous through the years, and I don't know if it gets better than Cryo. So we've advanced and filled in that spot for BL13 there in semifinal 2. That blank jersey there. Well, it's not blank, it's a white Zwift jersey. But we've got either Toyota Cryo RDT or Canyon Esports waiting in the wings. We've got a next level battle coming up here to sort out our final team. And what will certainly go down as a great day of racing, Nathan. I have to say to our entire team at Zwift behind the scenes, I know a lot of work has gone into setting up the Zwift knockouts, and a huge kudos to all of you. Johnny and his team, absolutely amazing the way this is set up, and we're all really winning for that with great racing to watch or take part in. And I know already, Nathan, I bet you when you get off this broadcast, you're going to see dozens of messages from people in your community saying, when are we going to be doing this? Can we do it next week? Because I want to race like this. It just looks like so much fun. And as far as I'm concerned, I could call this kind of racing all day long, every day. The excitement just doesn't stop.
Yeah, and chat has been freaking out, actually. I've seen quite a bit of questions coming through. When do we get to race? When do we get to do this? Is so much fun. This is so exciting. And so next up, though, as you did say, Canyon Esports, Toyota Cryo RDT, 2 community teams that came up into the Premier Division as well. The Arrow is out. The Anvil is out. So we will see the rest of the power-ups, though, for be able to be used. The names, Dave, very familiar names when it comes to Canyon Esports. Lionel Vyazin, Alex Vanville, Alan Lowe is out here, Michael Kaminsky, Yell Power. You know, the 2 names really there. Watch out for Vyazin as well as Yell Power. Martin Martins, Brad Gavaris, Jack Poley, as well as Christoph Thiem is in here. And then Havard Geldings is, I believe. There may be a sub from Eddie Uli. If Eddie shows up, Dave, I think you're gonna be watching out for that rider.
Eddie Uhl, like cool, right? And I have to say, Nathan, that this is an extremely, when I first looked at Canyon's lineup, I was like, oh, that's a murderer's row. But same thing with Cryo. These are some of the biggest names in esports coming up in our final ding-dong battle here in knockouts. Nathan, here we go. Buckle up, my friend. It's Canyon Esports versus Toyota Cryo RDT. This is going to be a real throwdown. We're going to go right into the race action. If you've been watching with us, this is our 8th and final knockouts elimination race. The format, again, thank you to our friend Hannah Walker for her help here today. Basically, Nathan, we have about a K and a half of getting our legs underneath us here, and then we start eliminating a rider every time we go under the arch until we're down to our final 3 riders, and then It's on like Donkey Kong. But again, we have to get there. We've had a couple races today where teams have been able to sweep things up before we even got into that final lap, and that was done by having the last 3 riders left. There was no need to have a final sprint. They'd already taken care of business early.
I want to speak to that a little bit, actually, Dave, because on this short course, the understanding of how much these riders are suffering in order to bring back some of these gaps and how much power is being thrown down and how much energy is being expended. You know, I think the reality of that last race where Barnes pulled Nair back up to Turek and Nichols, James was just done, I think, at that point. He had given so much and then goes over the top immediately. You know, the tactics on course and how much they can expend so much energy from these riders in a short period of time. I think we really need to start respecting that and realizing how much these riders are doing just to stay involved in the race at any given moment. A little bit calmer here, it looks like, on this start, though, Dave.
Yeah, Nathan, that's a very good point. This racing has been much, much harder than it looks, and that really speaks to something that you've talked about for years, is behind every one of these avatars is an athlete somewhere around the globe on a smart trainer that's absolutely burying themselves. The pool of sweat underneath these riders is immense by the time they're done. This is not a long effort, but there's a big warm-up that comes into this. Let me give a shout-out here to the Belgian Lionel Viassen. One of the greatest esports racers of all time in this race. Always exciting to see him here. You could say the same thing about the Norwegian Havard Gjeldnes there. This is so much talent in this field here. Martin Mertens is also a rider you have to keep an eye on. There's a couple Germans out here because Christoph Thiem also exceptionally talented. Nathan, we come up on the first sprint pretty quickly. We're about to activate the group. The first time they go underneath this arch, we won't be eliminating a rider, but that moves them into elimination mode. And there's Kiel Power as well. Boy, these are very, very familiar riders in this race, aren't they?
Yeah, super familiar, long time Zwifters, and the Duck is out here. Viassen, we'll see what he can pull off as he makes his way toward the front, but it's going to be his teammate Banville now at the front. CryoRDT fanning out across. There's a little bit of positioning happening from Canyon Esports. 4 riders toward the front. Alan Lowe, Viassen, Kaminsky now at this point. Be interesting to see how this plays out for Alan Lowe. We'll see what kind of power he can put out against some of these riders here. And, you know, Alan's really been working a lot, I believe, on his drafting ability, actually. I've been hearing and watching a little bit about his tactical ability. And I want to know if he's using first-person point of view, actually, and if that's going to help him out at all across holding on to some of these wheels and making sure he's not the last across the line. Sprint coming up, Dave, as they set up.
All right, so it was an Aero that Canyon eliminated, Anvil that Toyota Cryo eliminated. Nathan, it's going to be really straight up here. 5 on 5 here. An Avatar covering an Avatar there, but here we go. I'm going to throw it back to you. Our first elimination sprint has engaged.
Very early power-up being used by Viassen, I believe there. No, Zhao Power, excuse me, as they have a little bit similar-looking avatars. Now off the back already, a little bit Jack Poley maybe out of position, but back to front sprint. He knows what he's doing. It's going to be Eddie Uhl, perhaps. Who's cool? No, Alan Lowe. Oh, the struggle bus is real, as I believe Alan is off the back here. It's just a little bit too much power for the rider from Canyon Esports. Going to be the first one with the elimination, the drafting power-up not able to keep him involved. So, reset, Dave, and the next one coming up quick.
All righty, so we'll say goodbye to our first Canyon rider. You don't want to read too much into these first sprints because really this elimination game, you have to take inventory and see what sprinters are left out here or certainly try to look forward in the tactics, that crystal ball. But Nathan, that second sprint comes up so quickly after the first. So we're in full-on elimination mode here in Crit City.
Next sprint coming right on up here is Vyasen, now up into 8 watts per kilogram quickly there. Interesting for him to take over at the front. It's a risky move to be at the front at this point, and it's always whether do you go before the corner or wait. They're not waiting here. Now it's going to be Canyon again, struggling against Cryo RDT. I think it's another Canyon rider there. It's going to be Banville, I believe. The last across the line. Toyota with the numbers now. 5-3 versus one of the all-star teams, Dave.
Yeah, Nathan, we spend so much time with these teams doing Zwift Community Live broadcasts on Thursdays or Premier League broadcasts through the last 5 seasons that you could put me into either position, looking at it from the perspective of Canyon or from Cryo, and I'm happy. But I'm going to look at it right now from Canyon's perspective because they're down a couple riders. I would not be panicking with the talent that I've got on this team. Certainly, Cryo's got to be a little chuffed right now, Nathan. Things have been going their way, but Canyon, don't freak out here, and I don't think they will be. They've got a tremendous amount of experience. The competency level is incredibly high. The race IQ is very high. So don't think out there at home, if you haven't been watching this racing, that Cryo is crushing them, although they're certainly doing a pretty good job of trending that way right now. Canyon needs to rock up here.
Yeah, Kaminsky now using a burrito power-up. That's pretty smart use of a power-up there. Are they going to put their riders on the back foot? The reality of Gel Power and Niles and Austin, though, to the line now at this point. I mean, those are two of the savviest riders, strongest riders we've ever seen. And even with the feather there, Eddie Ull not going to be able to hold on, and he's going to be the next rider to be eliminated.
That's what I was talking about, right? You have to trust the process, Nathan, and I think Canyon was doing exactly that. They lost a couple of riders, but I don't think that was a shocker for them. But they're going to be happy to get rid of Eddie. Eddie, a very talented rider out of South Africa. Eddie Ull has been eliminated as we're now down to 4 Cryos and 3 Canyons here.
Yeah, and I think, Dave, looking at this, Martin Mertens, Brad Gaveris, those two are looking directly at Gel Power and Lionel Vyasen and eyeing them up, I think, for how this is all going to play out at the end. Perhaps we'll see something more for some of these other riders, but I really think the reserves right now are going to be about those riders. Vyasen now really playing this well, making sure he's only using as much as he needs to. Gel going very early, actually, here. Brad Gaveris looking to cover Lionel and Gel Power covering so early. It looks like Lionel trying to hold on to his teammate's wheel to try and keep his speeds high. Oh, no, here we go. Cryo RDT, are they going to get the upset? No, they're not.
It's going to
be Jack Pulley.
Yeah, it's funny. You get we watched hundreds and hundreds of sprints. If you're a commentator and you always are looking for the win, doesn't matter who wins the sprint. It's the last rider over the line, and Cryo will lose another. We're back to even now, 3 on 3, Nathan. So that's what I was talking about. Canyon just needed to trust their process, and they have. So this is extremely even now. When you look at the talent amongst these two teams, we've got a pick-em bike race going on here. We've got 3 more riders to eliminate until we move into the final here, where the first rider over the line. That's the only time that being the first rider over the line has a direct consequential payoff. The last sprint.
And it was interesting there, the way that I thought it was a little risky, the way that Lionel and Gel jumped. They didn't jump from the downhill to carry speed. They jumped from the flat. And so they actually played a little bit of a lead out for the Cryo team, because I do believe Jack would have been further back if they would have jumped differently. Kaminsky gives it a go early, and I think that is because they do recognize him probably not being the major sprinter amongst them at this point, and they're looking to get a chase out of Cryo RDT. Very early steamroller power up here coming from Lionel Vyasen now as they hit the cobbles, and that is to make sure he gets the most out of that power up. It looks like Vyasen, though, no, it's actually Gel Power using that, excuse me, as Vyasen maybe is at risk. Vyasen, though, over the top, shows he's actually pretty confident, I think, at this point, is it's going to be Martin Mertens who is the last to cross the line.
That's a big talent, Martin Mertens, there to be eliminated. It shows you the level that we're at, and we are now down to this group here, as Kaminsky is a very fast sprinter, the Polish rider. I would be more than nervous if I was in that final group with that Canyon rider here. Canyon's got to be licking their lips now. So they really turned the tables, didn't they, Nathan? Where they were down 5-3 in the early going. Now they've got the numbers 3-2. They not only have talent, it's quality and quantity that Canyon has here. So this is going to be a big one for Havard here, the Norwegian rider.
The jumps come at them so incredibly quickly over and over again. This is that downhill 7% negative gradient there for just a moment that they just took on, and now back into another negative gradient here, 3%, 2%, 0 now, and now the roundabout here. Who's going to jump first? Gavaris goes first. Is that too early for Kaminsky to respond? Actually, it's going to be Zhao Power, I think, who may be struggling against his teammate. Teammate v teammate actually for the line, and it's actually going to be Kaminsky, it looks like. Taken out.
Well, I gave him the kiss of death there, didn't I? That's a tough one. So the Polish rider is gone. We're down to 4 here. And Nathan, the thing you have to remember is these repeated efforts, you pay a price out here. So trying to keep any kind of freshness in your legs possible, this is where it's really going to pay off. This next sprint is critical. And we've got that amazing scenario now, 2 on 2. So one team will leave this next sprint with a decided advantage, 2 on 1 into the final. Who's it going to be, Nathan? Next sprint comes up quickly, and they actually are going to ease their way into this one. No one wants to play their cards too early on this sprint.
So interesting to watch here because Zeldins, Gavaris, Vyasin, all riders who have some of the best kicks. Zhao Power as well has a crazy good kick, but I'm just getting the feeling he's starting to fade a little bit at the back end. Now they do get some recovery. They've allowed everybody to really regain their matches, though, here a little bit more than we've seen in some of the other into the final 2 banners. We'll see how this plays out because of that burrito power-up. Vyasin, is he going to kick with it? No, it's actually going to be Zhao Power with it here now, as now it's going to be Lionel with a feather. That may be a bad power-up, and Vyasin is looking for probably a better power-up than that. But is Lionel going to get taken out by his teammate? Perhaps at the line? Is Lionel over the top? No, it's going to be Zhao fading to 1.2 watts per kilogram. We're into the last 1K to go.
And this is it right here, right now, folks. We're done eliminating, and now we've got a full-on bike race. Let's open up the throttle. So, boy, if I only had one guy left, I would go with Lionel Vyasin. Brad Gavaris, the South African, has been phenomenal out here. That was a devastating sprint as he took power right out of the mix. Havard, the Norwegian Havard Gelnes there. So these are 2 very strong riders for Cryo RDT. This is going to be a big one for them, Nathan. But Lionel Vyasin is going to be an awfully tough rider to take off the top step of the podium. He is Canyon's last chance out here. And now we are underway with the final sprint. Nathan, I'm going to throw it to you. Cryo versus Canyon. Who's going to get knocked out?
Aero power up from Zeldins. Whoa, man, that might just be the nail in the coffin. Nothing you can do against that, as it's going to be Zeldins with the kick, the early punch, and Lionel fades. Says there's just nothing to do. And Vyasin, it was a valiant effort, but Cryo RDT, they take it down, and Canyon Esports eliminated from the knockouts tournament. That, well, what a race to the line there. Zeldin's perfectly timed. Vyasin, you know, the timing with that final kick there, it went into the flats. I think they were all looking for the recovery and the right time to kick. I think it was just everybody held on until that final corner. Vyasin maybe had a little bit of a chance if he would run a little earlier, knowing he didn't have a power-up. Zeldins, I think, knowing he was one of the best sprinters, held on to that arrow perfectly.
Well, one thing's for sure, we learned a lot about tactics and techniques, and we'll continue to refine that. I will call today one of the most exciting days of racing we've ever had the pleasure of broadcasting here at Zwift. Absolutely awesome out there. That was 2.5 hours of straight broadcasting, Nathan, with 8 different races, and it felt like it went by in 10 minutes. And that really speaks to how incredibly exciting. A huge thank you to all of our staff at Zwift, and of course the racers for putting on such a show. So we're going to go back and let's take a look at our women first. They started off the day for us racing in Crit City, and you can see who advanced now is Sarah Snowpins will be taking on a beast mode presented by Rose in semifinal number 1. We'll be heading to McCurry Islands and Nyokyo for racing next week on Wednesday, same time, same place. Quarterfinal number 2 there, it was obviously beast mode. presented by Rose, that advanced. And then down in quarterfinal number 3, Swedish Swifters really put on a clinic out there. Socks for Watch showed the heart that they've always been known for to move into semifinal number 2. So 2 of those teams will be in our final 2 weeks from now, and it'll be up to them to sort it all out. So that's how it played for the women today. And the men, equally exciting, just tremendous racing all day long. Hexagon, that was a big moment for the French team as they were able to get the better of Avis Lecole. You can see in quarterfinal number 2, that was a great race as well. There wasn't a disappointing race all day, let's be honest, but Movistar will join Hexagon in semifinal number 1 and then semifinal number 2. That brand new jersey, they certainly did it proud today. BL13, I'm going to have to ask you about that, Nathan, but I call that the biggest upset just based on the franchise that is next insured. And then obviously we just saw Toyota Cryo joining them in semifinal number 2. Are you not entertained, Nathan? Does it get any better than this? What a fun day.
Yeah, the ride today by BL13, that is the ride of the day. I mean, absolutely amazing, especially the fact that it came down to a 2v1. You had a situation where a community team that have been fighting for quite a while, actually. They've been fighting for a few seasons at this point and just missing out in the playoffs in the ZRL a couple of seasons ago and then making it finally into this top level. Really cool to see what they were able to show up with here today. And Nichols, he's got to be on cloud 9. I bet they're still in Discord chatting about how that all played out there today. And really, really fun to see. You know, the battles in the women's side of things and how that's going to play out, as well as the men's side of things, with another crit-style race, short course, but with points on the line, a little bit different, the way that this is going to be able to play out. Again, the finals have a hill climb involved and a little bit more a different type of exercise system of the body, a different type of rider genre that can show up and get some more points at the end of the day and eliminate at the end of the day. But again, we've got another kind of crit style race next week. Looking forward to a points situation though and accumulating points. I think the teams learned a lot this week about where their strengths are, how to play their tactics out, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of riders from these teams out on Neokyo over the next week, figuring out where all the corners are at.
Well, thank you very much, Nathan. As they say, the cream is rising to the top. It's actually jumping out of the cup with the racing that we saw here today. So 4 men's teams and 4 women's teams are left here in the Zwift knockouts. I thank everybody from around the world for joining us. Your feedback has been well received. Thank you to the teams for great racing and for everybody at Zwift, including my colleague, Nathan Guerra. Ride on. We'll see you next week.